World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Want to quit your day job? Become a pro streamer. Want to become a pro streamer? Get your panels, overlays, banners, emotes, and more at the Fiverr Twitch store.
This is bad. Wait, let's just do it ourselves.
It is not fear that grips him, only restlessness, a heightened sense of things. The smell of engine and sweat, the engine rattling his blood, the crowd roaring. The race is about to start. He breathes deeply to focus. In this league, he finally found what he was looking for. A true passion.
Sono Massimo Paganini e per anni ho cercato una macchina che mi desse gioia, adrenalina nella guida e finalmente l'ho trovata nella G1 Series. Se anche tu vuoi provare una macchina che ti dia gioia e adrenalina, G1 Series 2020.
So, you think you got what it takes to race in the G1 Series? Can you keep your concentration? Even in the most stressed situations, can you keep pushing even when things go wrong? Can you master different environments? Can you adapt immediately to different conditions? Can you keep learning? Learning from your opponents, learning from your mistakes, learning from everyone, anytime, anywhere, until you reach your goal and become the best you can. Think you got what it takes to race in the 2020 G1 Series? Then fill in the form now.
Want real followers? Become a pro streamer. Want to become a pro streamer? Get your panels, overlays, banners, emotes, and more at the Fiverr Twitch store.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real. Two equally opposed championships, both which have shown greatness in two very different ways. One championship which has looked at perfection and mastering track upon track upon track, so that one final race here today could stand for 6 out of 6. The other championship, the one with €5,000 of prize pool on the line, can be spread any one of 3 ways coming out of this event today, with 3 fantastic drivers, 2 of the same institution, 1 looking to break the mold, all trying to find victory here today. The setting for our scene is a track which is known by everyone for the massive, larger, older father, which is going to be encapsulating here what we see today. This is the Grand Prix circuit at the Nürburgring. This is your Griiip G1 Virtual Series 2020, presented by Fiverr. Hashtag making it work. We are live on World Pro Racing's YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch, as well as retroactively on the ESR 24/7 esports network, as well as ESPN, motorsport.tv, and TVM Sport as well. Some brilliant action coming along. My name is Jake Sperry, joined alongside by Nicholas Hillebrand and all the crew who's getting things done for us today. In the production crew for us, Justin Mifsud and Nathan Mifsud. Nathan will be joining the production crew after his race in the Amateur Category Championship, along with FIA accredited stewarding from Adrian Fagayo, the Chief Race Director, and George Muscat, your Chief Race Steward here today. But Nicholas, we talk about the Amateur Category Championship right now. They're in 10 minutes of practice. Before that, they're going to then move over to qualifying here today. But it's all about one driver at the moment, and it is Philip Kraus in HM Engineering colours. The American has already bagged himself a nice swag of prizes, but what he'll want to do right now is put the nice cherry on the cake. He wants perfection here today. The only way he can do that is by getting his 6th out of 6.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to be hoping for, that absolute perfection streak. He has nothing to lose, but, everything to gain. And I think every single of these races, if they were in the same situation, of course, they'd want to end this season on a high note, on a higher note than he's already ending it with 5 out of 5 so far. But yeah, we hit the Nürburgring, very iconic track, one of the, most traditional racing circuits in the world. And I think it's really a fantastic place to end this with these fantastic open wheel race cars.
I absolutely agree with you, and we've seen so many times, time in, time out, time and time again, as we look to start practice off right about now. 10 minutes put on the clock, and drivers will be looking to get themselves off and going, and right in front will be the clash car there of Pierre-Andre Previdi, making the push down towards the opening corner out on track. But it's quite an interesting championship, though, for different positions, for different reasons in different places. Smaller field by the looks of things today for the amateur category, but you've got drivers right now like Pierre-Andre Previdi and Luca Furlich split by just 10 points at the moment here in this championship, and they'll be looking to try and pick up just a couple more places for pride at this point, but they are fighting for 2nd, 3rd and 4th in the championship, depending of course on if Sam Carpenter decides to turn up. He turned up late at the Circuit d'Azur, which was not going to be ideal, but for these 10 drivers at the moment who are looking to try and make their pushes forward, this is going to be a pretty important final race to try and see who has themselves the best possible, you could say, around a track which I think encapsulates all styles of attacking around a circuit. You've got the likes of, say, Nicholas, the very, very twisty Mercedes-Benz Arena. You go up through the middle sector, which is stop-starting and has some nice, fast and flowing sections. And then you've got that big run up to the chicane, which is, of course, that prime overtaking opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be very interesting, especially after the last race was the Circuit d'Azur. The drivers will definitely be happy to be at such an open track again. You see it here as they come down the back straight to the chicane. just how wide the track is in contrast to the cars, because these cars really are, they are lightweight, small, but agile machines. 400 kilos in weight and 205 horsepower. And, that's double the power and half of the weight of a Mazda MX-5, just to put that into contrast, with all the downforce added on through the wings. So, we can expect some fantastic racing here today, and I think that we're going to have very close racing as well. I mean, you saw it on the back straight. You can essentially go 5 wide into the chicane. Not that you should do that, because you will lose a lot of time, but the possibility is there.
There's always a possibility for 5 wide, but you have to be brave and you have to be close. You have to be bold to make that happen, as drivers will look to go and start their laps. Let's go on board with your reigning champion, hopefully in a moment, but we're looking at Pravidi right now. This is Philip Kraus that we are seeing out on track and going on board now through the first sector now into this carousel-esque inspired corner coming up. This is going to be the Dunlop hairpin, and this is going to be a key corner today to try and get right, because you want to put the power down on as early as possible, and it's so easy to spin up the rears, turn the car around, or even just understeer wide. Schumacher S comes up next, and of course that is pretty much flat out in these vehicles. You can see their 6th gear right now as Philip Kraus looking to really shuffle down the gears late, down to 4th into the next left-hander, and now you head towards the final sector. Pravidi having a big moment in front, and that's bravery from Kraus to try and stay as close to the racing line as possible.
Yes, absolutely. Just barely last-minute flinch there to keep up the momentum. Now going through the Advan-Bogen and now into the, I think now it's called the Vidal chicane on the Grand Prix variant. So a lot tighter there. Not very wise to clip the curbs there, because you see these sausages on the inside. It's trying to take as wide as possible into the Coca-Cola curve. Last corner here at the circuit. Not quite... Well, from the radius it is a hairpin, but you do carry quite a lot more speed through it than a hairpin, and now going down the front straight into the first corner. Back when it was brand new, it was described as the most exciting corner of the circuit, as it just dips down and you have this little cornering motion from the kick before it, just as you brake into the hairpin with everything you have. So, quite interesting track here. As you said, we have all the possible situations here. We have high speeds, high downforce corners, this medium speed, and also a lot of very narrow stuff here in the Mercedes arena.
Exactly, and we're seeing a lot of drivers that try and put these practice times in at the moment. Kraus from Furlich, from Rance, from Smith, from Pravidi. They're the only 5 right now who've set a time on their opening runs through, but we've got drivers here in this amateur category division who are looking to improve. Barbakov, I would say, is someone who maybe is really a drive to keep an eye out on. Second place, got a 1-2 there. You can see right in the background all of the trophies there, as we alluded to 1 week ago. He's very successful when it comes to his career, and you can see that stoic calmness as he goes up through the sections of track right now and looking to try and just make sure that he gets the runs that he wants here in this event. And this is one of the keys that we're seeing here with these drivers. Some drivers do have that camera available to them. You can see exactly how they're driving, what their equipment is, how they run. And it's almost Carter style that Barbakov drives. There's really not much movement in the way that he drives, but it's very precise in terms of what he does as he moves up to second here in practice.
Yeah, most definitely someone to watch out for. He had a bit of a difficult season up until last round, but last round at the Circuit d'Azur, he really could shine, just break through to that second place finish, which he wanted probably the entire season. And I think that's going to be, something that he left on a high note from, and he's going to want to continue that. But not only that, I think he also wants to go for first here. He wants to deny Philip Kraus this 6 out of 6 glory. And sometimes racing drivers just find that pleasure, not just in, just driving a little bit faster than their opponents on the track, but also, if the person has already won the championship, maybe I'll just snag that one last victory so you can't have your full victory here.
Exactly, and that's what we have been seeing. Kraus has gone quicker to a 1:45.9. It was Sheldon Scott Muscat who temporarily had the pole position on a 1:46.5, but ultimate, or not necessarily pole position, but fastest time in practice. But Sheldon Scott Muscat bumped down the order to second position right now and has half a second to find at the moment. Worth keeping a talk actually about Sheldon Scott Muscat and the work that has been put in by him over the season. It has rather been a season to forget. He's down in 14th in the championship, 22 points to his name right now, but that comes off of suspension damage at Adria, and Silverstone was a non-point scoring finish after being right up there at the pointy end. In terms of pace, Sheldon Scott Muscat's had it. In terms of racing cleanly, he's been unable to string a single result together that is worthy of the pace that he shows.
Yeah, most definitely. Philip Kraus, of course, with a little bit of a gap there at the moment, half a second. But right behind that, Stoyan Babakov and Sheldon Scott Muscat, they're so close together. And I do think that Pierre-Andre Previdi has not shown all of his pace yet. He's just 3/10 behind Stoyan Babakov. So I think he can still find a little bit of pace there. He's just now coming around that Van Bergen, as we can see. So, this is only practice. And you also don't know if the people are practicing some race runs right now or some quali runs. So the fuel in the car will also make a little bit of a difference, because these are just really light cars, and of course for a 20-minute race you need a lot more fuel than just for a quick quali run.
Absolutely you do, and they've only got 2 minutes remaining now here in this practice, and a little bit more to go on top of that. So what these drivers will be doing here will be trying to scout out the opposition, saying, okay, well, how quick are our times at this point in time? As I just mess up a little bit, as I also caught there Liam Rance there on screen, just getting 2 tyres kicked up over that Vidal chicane. You can see there he's led a little bit further back in his sim rig right now, but just getting kicked up a little bit on those curves. It's always difficult into that Vidal chicane, Nick, when you head through that section, because of course those curves are really designed to make sure that you're not cutting over it as much as possible, taking too much time. And what people normally tend to forget about when it comes to racing and sim racing is that curbs are technically not defined as racing circuit.
Yeah, of course. You have to be careful that you do not get a cut track there. So I would say as a corner and getting through it as quickly as possible, the Vidal chicane is probably the most difficult part of the circuit, because with the most part of the circuit you just have your normal racing line to follow, but at the same time in the Vidal chicane you can mess up so easily. You have to carry the best amount of momentum through. You have that very hard braking zone just after that long run through the back straight, through the Ad Van Bogen. And if you hit the curb, you can easily go on 2 wheels, just as we saw from Liam Rance. And if you brake a little bit too late, you can also lose the rear end a little bit, just as we had from Alan Smith just there. And also, if you hit the curb wrong, you might also just miss the second apex completely, either cut it or get sent on the grass on the outside. So it's just so difficult to get that through, and that is just alone. Later in the race, the people will be, just side by side into the braking zones there, and I really wouldn't want to be in that situation right now.
Absolutely not, and that's going to be key for these drivers today, is that they do not want to get held up in the early stages and do not want to be behind other drivers as they look to go and attack in this race. This is a track where being in front is normally the best, as practice comes to a close with Kraus on top, but Previdi did go quicker and moved up to second position, brought himself within 0.3 of a second of what is needed. The final couple of times will be coming in, but very swiftly we will be moving over to qualifying, and that's going to be 10 minutes open session. So once they start, they are allowed, of course, to finish their laps that they have available to them. But in terms of the prizes that were on the offing here today, it was a case, Nicholas, that we see Philip Kraus has already bagged them and has done really well. In terms of what he's won, that will help to improve him go further. A GT Omega ART cockpit with an RS9 seat, as well as a Thrustmaster Driving Force Pro steering wheel. That's going to be absolutely magnificent for him to kick on to the next level.
Most definitely. It's a quite nice cockpit and a very nice seat as well. And of course, Thrustmaster, very sturdy steering wheels all throughout the ages, as we already know. Back then, I mean, I think every single sim racer at some point probably had one of the three big steering wheels. But Thrustmaster is really just one of those memories I have from my sim racing career, which is really shining back, because that wheel that I had really ran for hours upon hours upon hours, and it never failed me. So very, very good times. I think mine lasted over 3 years. So and that was with almost exclusively endurance racing. So he's got a quite nice wheel there, a very nice rig as well, and he's going to be sitting comfortably in that GT Omega RS9 seat.
Exactly, he certainly will do. We know that it's a formality in terms of overall points led in the championship. Kraus, of course, first out on track here in terms of this run. His championship lead currently stands at 65 points overall. It's 35 points in this series for a race win, and of course we know that the championship has already been secured after the result last time out at the Circuit d'Azur. But what is going to be key is that Philip Kraus will have no slipstream. He'll have no draft for his opening qualifying run as drivers will look to get themselves ready. You look at the drivers who are just behind him out on circuit. Kraus is going to be maybe a little bit under pressure because Sheldon Scott Muscat and co is going to get a little bit of draft here out on track, and that's going to be useful. Luka Furlich is the driver directly behind who will be gaining the most out of it, and they can see pushing wide is Philip Kraus coming onto the coming onto the flying lap. That's not going to be doing those tyres any good, and as we know with R Factor 2 as a system, Nicholas, here as Kraus goes on to start his lap with Furlich just behind, one of the most effective tyre simulations you will ever find in sim racing.
The most detailed by far, and these lockups will really do your tires no good over time, just as they very aggressively push through there. Luka Furlich actually with almost a little bit of a power slide coming through there, so he's going to be trying his hardest, as we already see. Oh, and Philip Kraus with a couple of small lockups going into the last part of the Mercedes arena there. But yeah, Furlich is going to really try to stay on the tail of Philip Kraus here, because especially on the way down out of the beer curve, as it's commonly known through the mouths and, minds of Nürburgring fans, because, all different beer brands already had their name on that corner before. Just as you come out of that, you carry a lot of speed, and through there, you can carry so much more speed even with slipstream. Philip Kraus, a lot of pressure there again, and Luka Furlich is going to be very thankful for that, because he can just keep on carrying a lot more speed through there. And I don't think that they actually have so much speed here that, aero push will be a very big issue through the Michael Schumacher, so that will be very interesting to see as well when the dirty air really kicks in these cars.
Exactly, that's going to be key. These are like over-glorified go-karts, some would say, in the fact they've got so much power and they are so much about turning in as late as you possibly can into corners. Kraus and co looking to make that run up. Furlich as well, just behind, and Sheldon Scott Muscat just struggling a little bit behind them. The first times are about to come up onto the board. We're going to see who's going to be best placed, so we'll keep an eye on Kraus for the moment. It's a 46.2, Furlich only a couple of tenths of a second behind, and Sheldon Scott Muscat third on a 1:47.0. Keep an eye out though on the likes of Pierre-Andre Previdi as Smith goes fifth, Rance up into third position because Previdi in the Clash car goes third on a 46.8 at this moment in time. These first times are going to be really crucial. These are the benchmark times. You put a nice banker lap in for the first 5 minutes, and then the other 5 minutes you can then attack the next one. Barbakov going to third right now, so some good times coming in at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that we will really have to look out here for this entire middle field. From second to fourth, I think they will be very close together. And quite ironically, they're also, third to fifth in the championship. Just because, Sam Carpenter is missing sadly today. But Luka Furlich, Stoyan Barbakov, and Previdi, they will definitely be looking to battle for these positions here. As mathematically, just something has to go wrong. Stoyan Barbakov, as he's in third place right now, he's fifth in the championship, but mathematically it's still possible for him to rise up to third place. And it really, it really is one thing that people have to always think about in racing. Even if the chances are against you, everyone has to finish the same race, and it doesn't matter what happens. as long as you're not over the finish line, you're still in danger of losing a position.
Exactly, you are. Points, of course, in this series pay down the top 15 places with only 10 drives. That means that everyone is guaranteed points unless there is one scenario, and that is either A, a driver doesn't turn up, or B, well, actually, that's not one scenario, that's two scenarios, or B, the fact that a driver finds a retirement here today, and if they find a retirement and are unable to get the car back going again, they will be out of racing action here at the moment. Some drivers going for second laps, like Pierre-Andre Pravidi, who stays fourth on a 146.886 at the moment. This is Barbakov coming over the line. Green, but a red final sector there, but still found a little bit of improvement, found 2/10, so goes on to a 46.6 now, which makes life just a little bit easier in terms of qualifying. Track and ambient temp today, 29 degrees with 3 minutes 50 remaining here in qualifying. That's a pretty hot track considering, you would say here, Nicholas.
Generally, for Nürburgring standards, that is a quite hot track. But then again, you also never know at the Nürburgring usually. You blink twice and the weather's going to be completely upside down. But yeah, I think it's quite interesting here because the track temperature will somewhat affect the tire performance. We saw Philipp Kraus on his first lap already. You know, he was really pushing the car, especially through the last corner. You saw smoke coming a little bit up, really on the absolute limit for grip on those tires. Really close to overdriving the car as he just flew through turn 1 here for a second. As we're following Luca Verlick around, just going through the last corner, not the last corner, but the Dunlop hairpin at the moment. As I said, they're all very close, but at the same time, Philipp Kraus really wasn't able to get the same pace down so far as he showed in free practice, because obviously he was with a 45.9, there we go, Jesus. And right now he's 0.3 down on that, so he will definitely try to improve on that again. Of course, it's not going to help his position, because pole position is pole, but I think that's also a little bit of bragging rights here. But yeah, oh, sorry?
It's all about margin here as we see a couple of drivers trying to make their pushes through as we keep an eye on Verlick here. 2 minutes 20 on the clock, so drivers will be gearing up for their penultimate, if not final, runs at the moment. It's a long outlap here around this place, so drivers need to be out sometime around now if they want to get those times in. Verlick at the moment going on to start a flying lap at this stage, with many a driver hoping for improvement. Philipp Kraus knows it's not going to be an inch or a mile. As long as he's on pole position, he's got the best possible chance here today to go and get himself the best result right now, as we keep an eye on him going on to start, it seems, a flying lap with a lot of drift angle there going through that corner, able to gather it back up nicely. A lot of leeway in these vehicles. Worth noting that Mifsud is up into 5th place now, 0.8 off of pole position at the moment, but now this is where effectively you make your dough, so to speak, here, Nicholas.
Most definitely, and just as you mentioned, Mifsud, they're also very close there. You know, we have from 1st to 5th place, we have this steady per position, these 0.2 in between them, and then just from 5th to 7th, all within 1/10.
Big off for Liam Rance there. You can catch this one, hopefully we can. He's had a huge off, and that one coming out of, or trying to warm the tyres up, it seemed, through Ad Van Bogen. I caught that one right out of the corner of my eye and just trying to warm it up. The car loops around, and that's one of the issues around this circuit. This isn't a Herman Tilke designed track here, Nicholas, with less than a minute to go. It is very much, you're in grass, you're skating until you find something.
Most definitely, and I don't think that is how he wanted to end his qualifying session, because, as I said, he's still very close to Sheldon Scott Muscat there, and also still, I would say, within reachable range of Raimo Okas, who is also able to do yet another lap if he has the fuel in his car. But, you know, that is also the thing with Philipp Kraus right now, who is on screen. Second sector is in green, but he's still within attackable range. Luca Verlick now parked his car, but, you know, everyone else is still very close there. As we see Sheldon Scott Muscat, as I mentioned him just earlier, go up to 3rd place, exactly 0.4 behind Philipp Kraus, and still able to do another lap, I think.
Yes, timer has just now expired, so drivers will be able to finish their laps. Kraus at the moment on pole position and goes even quicker. 46 flat. He's given himself nearly 4/10 of a margin to the rest of the field right now. This is going to be key. Sheldon Scott Muscat's got another lap. Barbakov's out there on one. Okus as well as Mifsud, and then Kirsten Beher on a lap. Alan Smith will not improve on his time. He will remain in 10th place right now, but it's all about laps. Sheldon Scott Muscat currently in 3rd position, heading down to the lowest point on the circuit. In fact, will abandon the lap then, will it or no? Just having a few issues, but does run wide and spin it slightly, so Sheldon Scott Muscat's lap very much now has to be abandoned at this point. Stoyan Barbakov out there on a flyer at the moment. Mifsud has gone to 5th place on a 46.675, has jumped over Pierre-Andre Pravidi, who's heading up now to the Vidal, trying to make sure that this time works. He's currently almost 8/10 of a second off of pole position. Half a second would get Pravidi up to 2nd. Remember, it's 10 points between himself and Luka Frlic in the fight for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th in the championship, and Pravidi comes over the line and goes 2nd on a 146.3. Great work. Now to Stoyan Barbakov, who will be next to try and make that push over the line. Probably one of the last drivers who could make that big run. There's Raimo Okus coming over the line, remains in 8th place. He did improve his time, though, by 2/10 of a second. Barbakov jumps one more place over Muscat, who pulled into the pits by 5 thousandths. He is clear. Kraus on pole, Pravidi 2nd, Frlic 3rd, and we, ladies and gentlemen, are going to take a step aside. A couple of bills we need to pay with World Pro Racing. We'll be back with more after this. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Want to quit your day job? Become a pro streamer. Want to become a pro streamer? Get your panels, overlays, banners, emotes, and more at the Fiverr Twitch store.
This is bad. Wait, let's just do it ourselves.
It is not fear that grips him, only restlessness, a heightened sense of things. The smell of engine and sweat. The engine rattling his blood. The crowd roaring. The race is about to start. He breathes deeply to focus. In this league, he finally found what he was looking for. A true passion.
Sono Massimo Paganini e per anni ho cercato una macchina che mi desse gioia, adrenalina nella guida e finalmente l'ho trovata nella G1 Series. Se anche tu vuoi provare una macchina che ti dia gioia e adrenalina, G1 Series 2020.
So, you think you got what it takes to race in the G1 Series? Can you keep your concentration? Even in the most stressed situations, can you keep pushing even when things go wrong? Can you master different environments? Can you adapt immediately to different conditions? Can you keep learning? Learning from your opponents, learning from your mistakes, learning from everyone, anytime, anywhere, until you reach your goal and become the best you can. Think you got what it takes to race in the 2020 G1 Series? Then fill in the form now.
Want real followers? Become a pro streamer. Want to become a pro streamer? Get your panels, overlays, banners, emotes, and more at the Fiverr Twitch store.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to your Griiip G1 Virtual Series for 2020, presented by Fiverr. Hashtag making it work. And if it's working for you right now, wherever you may be watching this right now on the World Pro Racing YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch, be it on the ESR 24/7 Esports Network, be it on ESPN, TVM Sport, and on Motorsport TV, please use the hashtag making it work to let us know how are you making it work for us right now as we get ourselves just a couple of minutes away from the start of racing action here from the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. A championship already decided, but of course it's worth noting that after this race, ladies and gentlemen, the Pro Division is going to be incredibly close, incredibly tight, and a whole lot of drama has come out from last week to get to where we are now, and there will be a huge talking point coming into this race, which would be coming up after this, which will be sensational. I'm Jake Sperry, that's Nicholas Hillebrand alongside me, and well, Nicholas, you've got to talk about right now how that qualifying came and went. Yes, Philip Kraus was on top. Yes, he was put under pressure throughout the majority of his laps, but even with big mistakes, he still had pole position locked up under key.
Yes, in the last couple of minutes, he really got it back together. Still not as fast as his practice time, but just a tenth slower. And, you know, he really could assert a little bit of dominance over the other drivers there. You know, it was actually a tactic that he basically just got through that Michael Schumacher also did when he was in a very strong car, or when he had very strong, how do you say it, security into the car. Just in the final stages, whip out another of these fast laps, just get yourself one up even further. So, you really show some psychological pressure to your opponents there. And I think with the end of the qualifying, with most of the people being within 6/10 of Philip Krause's time, that's really what he wanted to do. Set them under pressure a little bit, just so they know that he's still boss, that he's still going to go in with maximum attack, and that he's not going to go back down.
And it's more than just that as well. If you talk about how Philip Krause has got to this point in the season, Nicholas, his win margin at Adria was 8.5 seconds. You look over to Silverstone, maybe a little bit less. It was only 1.9 seconds, but he had to work hard for those 1.9 seconds. You head over to Imola, the gap again, 0.8 of a second, pushed all the way by Sam Carpenter for a second consecutive week. Then came where he started to show what he's capable of. 10-second margin victory at the Circuit d'Azur in Monte Carlo. 11.6 seconds, his margin of victory. And this has been the key to Krause in terms of how he's been picking up race win after race win after race win. He's been moving from strength to strength, and he has done so through great maneuvering off of the start, building up the gap early, and over 20 minutes of racing to have gaps of 10 seconds almost in over half of his races so far. You have to say it has been marvellous. How does anybody stop him today?
Well, I think the big challenge will be that, the entire rest of the field will have to focus not getting caught up within each other. Philip Krause was 0.3 ahead of second place, so the rest of the field is basically within 0.3, very close pace to one another. And we also now see that, the race pace is a bit down. So, we were at the low 46s, mid 46s, and now we're about 1 to 1.5 seconds up, which will, of course, be the fuel kicking in. Of course, fuel in this car, only weighing 400 kilos, will make a bigger difference than in some other cars that weigh, for example, for a GT3 car, which weighs at least 1.2 to 1.3 tons. That is 1/3 of that. So a lot of, different balance will be in the car as well. Because, the fuel tank in the middle of the car will, depending on where it's placed, it will either place a little bit more to the rear or a bit more to the front. It might either give you a bit more front grip because you have more weight on the front axle, or it will take a bit away because it's on the more closer to the rear axle.
Well, warm-up is going to be classified as in the book, in the pocket, out of sight. And now in the next couple of moments, we will take you over to the starting grid. They will have a formation lap here to get their tyres and everything else up to temperature here for these 20 minutes worth of racing that they will have available for them. As I just caught an eye on Kirsten Abeja doing a practice start on the outside of the corner there in the third sector on track. So, confirmation of how the grid stacked up. Philip Krause will be on pole position and Pierre-Andre Previdi alongside. Following that is Luka Thurlich and Stoyan Barbakov there, with Sheldon Scott Muscat and Nathan Mifsud on row number 3. Kirsten Abeja starts 7th, Raimo Okus in 8th, and Liam Rance and Alan Smith round out the 10 cars in this amateur category division. They will have themselves, of course, that warm-up lap. You could see there only one light was on in terms of the starting procedure. So what will that mean? That will mean they will have one formation lap and they will get themselves back into grid stall position. What's key for these drivers here in this 20-minute race that they have available in front of them is to warm up those tyres, Nicholas, as quickly as possible. Many ways to do that, but of course, ice-cold tyres do not mean for the best traction when you get off the line.
Most definitely. They're going to have to, have the big fight here. For 20 minutes, of course, not so much, but they will have to have the tyres at a good temperature, but also while not wearing them too much. People are just trying to, warm them up a little bit, maybe just by doing the strategy that a lot of GT3 drivers do nowadays, just warm them up with a bit of brake temperature, because not only the tires need to be on temperature. Oh, someone spun. That is peculiar. That is Liam Rance.
Yep, that's Liam Rance right at the back of the field that I just caught out of my eye there. So Liam Rance there going for a bit of a spin coming out of turn number 4 there. So can see gets on the grass as he goes by, and he's lucky he's not collected another driver. Remember, when it comes to this, it's not like, say, an F1 2019 video game where if you pick up damage on a formation lap, it gets magically repaired. You have to run with that here in R-Factor 2 all the way to the end if you actually pick up damage. So Alan Smith, good heads-up driving to avoid that while still warming up his tyres, but Liam Rance will look to try and get himself back into grid position to go through. Another thing to note here, Nicholas, quickly as they head into towards the final sector is that 10 cars on the grid, not long to wait for Philip Kraus for everyone to grid up.
Yeah, most definitely. That is going to be a very nice thing for him because, of course, when you are in a very big grid, for example, with some of the bigger Formula Series here on R-Factor 2, you have up to 30 people on the grid, which is very difficult, of course, you know, to just set into the grid onto the grid normally. Because the longer you have to wait, of course, the hotter your engine will get, and the hotter your engine gets, the more prone it is to fail. So you really want to, you know, just have that shortest while standing still on the grid, as they now make their way here through the Vidal chicane, through the Hyundai N-curve, and onto the starting grid. The beginning of the start-finish straight, actually, the highest point above sea level of the entire Grand Prix circuit, so one could say it's all downhill from here, but in this case you really want that. You really want to pick up as much speed as possible, and yeah, I'd say we have a pretty interesting race to look forward to now.
It's all down to this. One driver in position number 1, searching for a 6th race win out of 6. Perfection can only be achieved by some greatness, and Philip Kraus has proven 5 occasions this season that he has been the one able to do it. Lights coming on now on top of the gantry. Let's get ready. Some smoke in the background, but let's get going here. Kraus gets a good start here. Pravidi's done well from second. Immediate switch by Furlich, though, in that fight for second. You can see Barbakov gets on the grass as they go in towards turn number 1 and hit the brakes. Kraus unchallenged. No real dramas behind. Right in the background, they're 3 wide as the likes of Sheldon Scott Muscat starts to try and find a way through and does so. But at the moment, Philip Kraus got exactly what he wanted off of that start. The race lead, and Kirsten Abey has had a stormer here down the inside of Barbakov and up into 4th place.
What a start from Abey there. Absolutely fantastic moves. A lot of cars actually having the engine smoking, so what I just said with the engine temperature going up just set in just as I said it, and Abey very sideways there, but still keeping up the momentum, trying to stay with Furlich in 2nd place. But really, I think at this start, Barbakov really lost out here because he's really going to want to fight with the top 3 there. And with Abey just getting past him at the start, I don't think that he's going to be happy. He looks quite indifferent, so, you know, he knows that there's still a long race to go. But I do think this will get a little bit under the skin because, of course, what you won't want to do at the start of the race is lose positions.
Oh, he's even had time to adjust his hair as he goes through to the next corner. Around the outside, he's trying to get that one done. He's not going to find it just now and immediately puts him under pressure from Nathan Mifsud down the inside of Advan Bogan, trying to get this one done. And he's got himself the overlap. Has he got himself everything that he needs? Tucking back into the draft, trying to get the move done. But Barbakov back down into 6th place, side by side just behind that as Rance tries to find a way through. He can't quite get it, but Mifsud loses out again to Barbakov now as they head towards the final corner. Manic in the midfield as they go through top 3. They're very comfortable at this moment in time, but look at them serpentine as they head themselves down to turn number 1. Mifsud immediately going to come back onto the offensive in the GT Omega car, trying to get past the HM Engineering Stoyan Barbakov machine, and he's so deep on the brakes, he's overcooked it by a mile, and ultimately you can play overcooked, and there's a car spun in the background. That's Alan Smith pointing backwards.
And he's just keeping it going, very nicely spins it around. But that was really, really good behavior from everyone there. Mifsud really missing his brake marker, but somehow no one got collected there. So that is great awareness there from Kirsten Abey, and also at the same time from Stoyan Barbakov, because I know that quite a lot of people would have the temptation to still, you know, try to keep that braking maneuver going, but, you know, very level-headed, and just barely avoided a big disaster there at the end of lap 1, at the start of lap 2.
Exactly, and that was the key, just getting out of trouble, and Kirsten Abeja now is here having to defend slightly. Oh, there's a mistake. There's a huge mistake from Kirsten Abeja. Just went straight on there with, it seems like, some form of technical issue there, almost like his screen maybe just blinked out. He blacked out for a couple of seconds there, had no idea where he was on the circuit, and as such drops all the way back to 9th. That becomes 8th as Raimo Okus now runs wide and drops a place, but that was a freaky instant there for Stoyan Barbakov. That's one of the fastest corners on the circuit there through the Schumacher S to have a moment like that, as Kraus currently over 1.4 seconds now here at the front of the field, but that gets reeled back into a second through the chicane and going through. Barbakov, though, got lucky.
Most definitely a very, very close situation there. I really don't know what happened to Abeja there, because it really looked for a second that the car got slower just as they got into the Schumacher S. Of course, even weirder when you consider that this isn't by no means like a corner of the track where you actually have to lift. These cars have enough downforce to make it flat out. So really, really confused what happened there. I thought for a second that the engine might have died, but obviously not the case, as Abeja is still going. But that is a mistake that probably didn't need to be made. No matter what happened, they're not going to be happy with that over there. So yeah, Barbakov is going to be a little bit more relaxed now, back up to 4th place, but he has to catch up quite a gap.
It's 3 seconds at the moment, the gap he needs to chase here, as off goes, that's Nathan Mifsud there, in the gravel, as he went downhill through the right-hander. So let's try and get a look and see exactly what has happened. A drive-through penalty for Liam Rance for his incident with Sheldon Scott Muscat, but this is Nathan Mifsud. Oh, the back stepped out from him through that section. It's very quick. You rely on that downforce of the vehicle to try and get through that corner, but in these open formula machines that we see so often here, Nicholas, it is sometimes a little tough going through the quick corners to have enough downforce in on the vehicle.
Yeah, it's just really the difficulty here, because you have these middle speed corners where the downforce is just starting to kick in, and where you otherwise have to rely on the mechanical grip. So, and just in this downhill left-hander or right-hander combination of turns 5 and 6, it's not quite easy to always just keep that balance going. So you really have to watch out there, you know, what you do just on that switchover point, especially since you can very easily just barely touch the grass there, brake on that, and you will go around just like Mifsud just did.
Yep, and that's just how easy it is. Keep an eye, though, on Luka Furlich, currently in 3rd position right now. He's battling with Pierre-Andre Pravidi for 2nd place at the moment. Their championship gap between them currently stands at 10 points at this moment in time, as they head on through this fantastic Mercedes-Benz arena and onto the run of the next part of the track. That arena coming into play in 2002, which makes it about 18 years old and legal for a drink at this point in time. But through down the hill and towards that Dunlop hairpin, if things stay the way that they do between them right now, 2nd in the championship will go to Furlich by virtue of 5 points at the moment, staying in 3rd. He doesn't need to make the overtake here on Pravidi, but he would love to be a step higher on the podium than 3rd.
Most definitely, you always have to push, and if you look just ahead of that, if you look past Andre Pravidi's car, you can still see Kraus. So Kraus not quite able to gap as much as he probably would like. Last lap he just had a little bit of a mistake coming through the Dunlop hairpin, so that is not quite what he wants to do, as well as, you know, just wearing down the tires a lot. Of course this is only 20 minutes, but these tires are not made for endurance races either, so they're also laid out for very short sprint races. So it's going to be quite interesting to see who can also keep their temperatures down, because of course as higher as your temperatures go, the more you will lose your grip.
Yeah, and that's going to be crucial to see from drivers who look to try and push forward. The gap at the front, 1.6 seconds for Philip Kraus. By no means a runaway at this point in time, and we are 1/3 of the way through this race, but Philip Kraus has just got to keep steady. If he stays like this, he's got the unbeaten season on lock at this point in time. Side by side for 7th, though, this is Raimo Okus losing the position outright at this moment in time there to Kirsten Abeja, who's found a way through. So as easy as you like it there, that was a very comfortable overtake on Reimer Okus, and those two have been swapping positions left, right, and centre in this race. So 7th and 8th position, seemingly a hotbed for overtaking action right now here, Nicholas.
Yeah, and Beja at the same time will probably be looking to push very hard here, of course, to make up that time from the mistake through the Schumacher S. Lost basically all the positions that were gained on the start. So quite a lot of pressure on right now. Oh, yeah, just barely locking up into that, and now going very wide line that Reimer Okas can catch back up. Now having an actual better run there. And of course can continue to push through, just looking for the inside-outside, and the next corner gets blocked off. Where does he want to go?
Inside.
And she tries, just barely pulls out of it. The better decision there, because you really want to carry more momentum. Because, you know, now you see Raimokas could carry a little bit more through the corner, and now is straight back onto the tail to charge another assault into the Vidal chicane.
Well, here comes the move. He'll have to go the long way around, though, to make this happen. Some good driving by Kirsten Abeja, who's earlier on the brakes. Okus trying to go around the outside, but runs out of road to make that a possibility, so ultimately has to fall back in line. Something I've noticed is it's been 3 laps since Liam Rance's penalty, but ultimately Liam Rance here needs to serve that penalty pretty soon, otherwise the stewards are going to take a very dim view of that, and he may not have a race from now to the end of this one overall. So that's something definitely just to keep in mind the longer that this one goes. So ultimately they stay in line, but Pravidi, look at the gap, it's 0.4 of a second right now. He's keeping that margin to Philip Kraus at 1.6 seconds. The worst thing that Pravidi would want at this point in time, Nicholas, would surely be Luka Frlich finding a nose up the inside.
Most definitely, that's exactly the problem here, because Frlich is not just going to back off, because he can see that Pravidi can keep up the gap to Kraus, especially with that lockup there. He can see a vulnerable person who is able to be attacked. So Frlich is really going to try and keep it together here, just keep it within 1 second, keep it within as quickly as possible. And Frlich is really going to try and keep it just error-free here. You can see more and more lockups from the front, or just over-pushing the tires a little bit, sideways entries into corners. And I have to say, Frlich in the last couple of laps, he seemed a little bit more reserved, you know, a little bit calmer. So maybe he is trying to play it on the long game, just staying right behind Pravidi for second place. Maybe even trying to wait, as we just see the gap go down a little bit again to Kraus. You know, just waiting and seeing who can be vulnerable at what point, because the more you push, of course, the easier it is to mess up.
But of course, old father time's coming into play. They're already over half distance in this race, and they have themselves 9 minutes and of course about 6 seconds left remaining in this one, so a lot of work. In comes Liam Rance then finally to make his stop, and look at who's being released here. You got this 3-car scrap now behind that, as Nathan Mifsud here tries to get past both Okus and Abeja with 6th place on the mind. So if he can find a way through both of them, and looking over that last lap, he was all over the back of Reimer Okus, just backed off of it a little bit over the back end of the lap. This could very easily turn into a huge scrap for those drivers fighting in the mid-pack positions at this point in time. So keep an eye on that as they go through, as they now make their way towards the next left-right section as they descend down the hill once more.
Entering once again into the Mühlenbach-Schleife, or also known Mühlenbach Loop. Basically, you know, the name that came from it now taking the place of the former South Loop, which, you know, is of course nowadays mostly just country roads, and instead they built this permanent section of track for the new Grand Prix circuit, all right behind there. And Mifsud just making a little bit of a mistake there, wanting to attack a little bit too early, but in front there, Kirsten Abeja just made a similar mistake, and Reimer Okas can really just keep up with that. Of course, this is not necessarily bad for Mifsud.
Just running wide there through that next section of road. You can get away with it at that corner, but you're seeing right now how Kirsten Abeja is trying to push the limits again and again, and Frlich has had a moment here out on track. He's dropped way back here to a tune of about 2 seconds over the course of it. We haven't been able to catch it, but Stoyan Barbakov now is fighting for a podium as this 6th, 7th, 8th place battle starts to get close. So Luka Furlic starting to struggle here a little bit with a very, very poor lap, a 150.9, and all of a sudden it's defense now we're seeing from Luka.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. It's a lot harder to just stay consistent when you're pushing more. And Stoyan Barbakov knows that, of course, as well. So, at the same time, while Luka Furlic was trying to, just wait for others to make a mistake, he himself maybe just got a little bit lost for a second and thought there and made a mistake himself. You just have to make one, and immediately you will be from the position of the hunter changed into the position of the hunted. Which, of course, Stoyan Barbakov will be very happy about.
Well, he looks indifferent again. It seems like he's got one expression, and that is attack out on circuit, as Abeja has been off the road as he was fighting with Raimo Okus. I wonder if they've come together here through the left-right piff-paff onto the Mullenbacher Schleif. But we'll see how this one's happened for Kirsten, going through the left-hand corner. Has he just looped it? Oh, he's had a big loop. Snap of oversteer. Going through the corner, does a nice pirouette 360, keeps it out of any barrier, and keeps going again. But what is key is that promotes Okus and Mifsud now up to 6th and 7th, and Okus is so narrow going through that section. He's going to be immediately under threat if you can't put the power down enough.
Yeah, Mifsud is just getting that habit. I think he tries to, copy a little bit of the line of the person in front. He got caught out a few times now, making a few mistakes there. But at the same time, when the person in front, or one of the people in front, makes it well, and now he's just breaking that habit, he can profit on the mistakes of others when he sees from the start, they're making a mistake, I will do it better. He carries more momentum through, and he's now right in attacking position against Raimo Okus for 6th place.
Thinking about it to the left, to the right, trying to get in the mirrors. Okus goes deep, and that's going to be a pocket pick potentially, but it's 2 left-handers in a row in the Mercedes-Benz Arena, and it's off camber through the first part, so that's no dice there for Nathan Mifsud just yet. On the brakes, huge lockup from Raimo Okus going through. You can't afford to make too many mistakes like that. The gap at the front now has extended to 2.5 seconds now for Kraus against Pravidi, but Furlic as well. Keep an eye out here on Furlic. He's in 3rd position, having a good run as Mifsud gets really close to the back there of Okus and trying to maybe pick a run up into the most auspicious of corners, this Dunlop curve. Of course, that homage to the carousel, defended into the apex there by Raimo Okus, but ultimately can't quite get it done, as now Barbakov here trying to go around the outside and get the move done. He can't quite find it just yet.
Yeah, he's really just looking now. I think Barbakov, after his mistake earlier, he doesn't want to wait. Like what Luka Furlic was kind of going for, as it seemed, that wait it out and see what happens attempt. Stoyan Barbakov knows there's only 4 minutes left in the race. Exactly 4 minutes actually. And, he really doesn't want to wait. He wants to get past. He really starts pushing here. And while his facial expression remains unchanged, I think deep down below, he's going to start feeling a little bit giddy. He knows that he can catch up here. He's now right in the slipstream, looking for the outside. And...
no, not just yet, but look at that huge kick there of torque going through from Luka Furlic. He's now having to defend. Mifsud through on Raimo Okus. He did that down at the Vidal chicane, but now we start to see Barbakov start to flex a little bit, starting to prod and poke and probe, looking for a way through. A dive for the inside at turn 4. He's now even looking for the places on track to get unorthodox moves done. But look at how much they're being held up right now. That gap has come down by a whole second in the opening sector. Sheldon Scott Muscat here looking for a podium at last.
Yes, and that's exactly the point. Once again, the more you battle, the more you focus on the car in front, you're trying to force them into a mistake, but inevitably, because you're altering your normal racing line, you are also slowing yourself down, and Muscat just really catching up now. Now down to 8/10, and, he's really going to be almost in slipstream range with this. Barbakov really, kind of stole his entire momentum, his own momentum, out of the Mercedes arena, and even more here, is allowing Muscat to just catch up to them. And it's only, well, 1 or 2 laps. Yeah, just 2 laps left after this. And I don't think that, they're doing themselves any favors. They're just pushing too much right now, with Furlich being quite comfortably ahead at the moment. 6/10, and just bad exit out of the Vidal chicane, though.
Happens to the best of them as they go on through. The gap at the front now, 3.3 seconds. There's only one way that Philip Kraus is surrendering this one, and that is that the gods decide that it is not for him. So we'll see how that one goes. But Furlich, Barbakov, Muscat, 3, 4, and 5 in their scrap at the moment, having a really good run of things. But Luka Furlich just using a bit of experience right now, Nicholas. He just needed to stay calm. He's weathered a storm already of Stoyan Barbakov. It's just consistency at this point. If he picks his markers perfectly from now to the end of this race, he knows there is no chance here in this one that he can really have that overtake happen to him.
Yeah, Furlich is really just keeping clear of that right side there as well at the exit of turn 5. He saw a lot of people make mistakes there already. Philip Kraus did a mistake there in the warm-up, and then, of course, we saw Abeja do the mistake, the same one, in fact, that Kraus did in warm-up, but sadly in the race. So, he's just really putting the emphasis on staying safe there, really staying just away from that, and now he has that nice gap, because now Barbakov, no matter how calm he is, he can't just attack anymore. He has too much of a gap now, and Muscat is right on his tail, going to make that last move as much as he can.
Exactly, he's trying every which way to find that overtake. He is not finding enough of it right now as they come up through Advan Bogan, looking towards the Vidal chicane and trying to look to the inside in the mirrors, not close enough. One more lap around this place as Philip Kraus crosses the start-finish line. We are in for a good fight for 3rd, 4th and 5th, which is now looking more 4th and 5th as the gap has extended through that chicane. Sheldon Scott Muscat's got work to do here on the final lap of this race. Also, you've got the likes of Raimo Okus and Kirsten Abeja. They'll be fighting it out as well for 7th and 8th place overall, but our focus will be on this battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th. At the moment, the gap between them now has extended out to almost a second each between them, and there is no chance on God's green earth, at the green hell, that you have any chance of making a move if you're 1 second back. Barbakov's got a bit of clean air at the moment, and Luka Furlich has just very quietly put himself to 3rd. He will take 2nd in the championship with 30 points available for 2nd place if he can just keep it quiet and make sure that Barbakov can't find a way through. Pravidi's done everything that he's needed to do today, but he has not found a way to get to Philip Kraus. He has not found a way to get a car between himself and Luka Furlich. At the moment, it's been some great racing that has been going on as Abeja just behind gets right up into range here with Raimo Okus. We could see a move down here at the chicane. Little bit of grass tag there by Okus, and on the brakes, it's close between them at the moment, but at the moment, it's not quite there. Good run off of the exit, though, will be needed. But attention turns to Philip Kraus, who, as he goes through the Vidal chicane and has one more corner to go, even Midas did not have as much of a golden touch as Philip Kraus did through the final corner, and to perfection for the American. Philip Kraus wins everything in the amateur category championship. Pravidi will take 2nd overall on track, but for the championship it will be Furlich who gets 2nd place overall with a 3rd place run to the end. And drama as Okus and Abeja are in the Armco barriers on the run up through Advan Bogan, as both of them have come together with a massive crash. And I think Raimo Okus here giving Kirsten Abeja the position as he goes through. Is there drive? Yes, there is. What happened between them? Huge contact, both of them spinning, and I believe Abeja very nearly there. Nicholas got airtime and nearly rolled it.
Very nearly, in fact, actually just took off. He actually did take off, and yeah, I think that is a very difficult situation there. Try to keep it very tight, try to make, of course, the space as little as possible, and of course to just stay as far alongside and as close to the next person as possible, but just maybe a little bit too close. So at the end of it, just really, yeah, a bit too much from maybe both sides, but yeah, the race control will decide that later.
They certainly will. It's confirmation of results, unofficial at this point in time with that incident at the end. Philip Kraus picks up the win then, 21 minutes 33 seconds, wins by 6.3 over Pierre-Andre Previdi. Luka Furlic finishes third with Stoyan Barbakov in fourth place. Sheldon Scott Muscat gets fifth with Nathan Mifsud in sixth. Abejo profits off of that incident though, gets seventh ahead of Raimo Okus with Alan Smith in the ninth, and Liam Rance gets 10th position with a non-finish overall then in this event. However, though, at this point in time, we do have one Mr. Philip Kraus alongside me here in the commentary box right now. Philip, it's perfection. How do you feel?
Well, pretty good. I wasn't expecting that coming into this because until there was about 5 minutes left in practice, I was about 6th on the charts, but I did a little tweak on the setups for the downforce and gave me a lot of time and never really looked back after that.
Well, didn't really have any opportunity to look back, but in terms of that race, that was a grind in terms of some of your other races over the course of the season. Yes, it's a 6-second margin of victory, but at no point in that race did you feel that maybe you had that opportunity to slow down. Were you pushed all the way?
Yeah, I'd say I was pushed all the way. I don't know how to pronounce the name. I think it's Pierre was behind me, and he was really quick the whole race. Only place I think I really had a noticeable advantage over him was probably in the last sector, but in the first two sectors he was matching me or going quicker, so I always had to stay a bit on the limit to make sure I was building a gap or keeping the gap equal at least to him.
Well, it was flawless from your end. 6 wins out of 6. In terms of what's next on the radar for you, you've got a fantastic GT Omega rig coming in and a Thrustmaster wheel. What's next for you then as you look towards your next lot of racing?
That's an excellent question. I can't say I know yet, but looking forward to what the future brings. Definitely thanks to everyone at World Pro Racing for putting this on. It's amazing.
Well, it's amazing for you, and of course your team as well, HM Engineering. Anyone you'd like to thank from there?
Just everyone at HM. Like I've said, the past few races, I definitely won't be able to do this without them.
Well, there you can see Philip Kraus very happy with that victory. It's perfection overall. Pierre-Andre Previdi came home in 2nd position in the race and is stood by with Nicholas Hillebrand.
Pierre-Andre, really good race from you, really consistent, but maybe not just quite the pace you had hoped for in the overall standings?
Yeah, I did have the pace to win the race, but I couldn't do a good lap. So I couldn't catch Kraus. He was doing every lap very, very fast. But in practice I did 47 zeros all the time, and if I did all that in the race, I could probably be first place or at least battle with Kraus. But in the race, I couldn't go fast enough to catch him. He was just faster, like always. It's almost boring.
Nevertheless, a very interesting race from you as well. Just you were the only one to just stay really out of that trouble the entire time, staying out of mistakes. So you really got rewarded for it in the end. And in the end, also for your place in the championship, 2nd place overall in the championship. Are you very happy with that result?
Yeah, very happy because it's my first championship that I joined. This was my first experience on PC with wheel and stuff. Before I was playing Forza with pad, so I was a noob to this. I'm very happy, but I couldn't be 2nd place without my team. I was very lucky to have friends in Clash Sim Racing like Omar Berellini, David Gentili and Tuffa that made a lot of good setups all the races, so very happy with my 2nd place.
And then a very, very nice debut season you had. And of course, once again, thanking the team right there on that. So really seeing that everyone here is really just relying on people as well. No motorsport in no matter whether virtual or real, a single fighter sport. But yeah, fantastic race from you. Really great show to watch. And thank you for, of course, attending here.
Thank you to you guys.
Well, there we see Pierre-Andre Pravidi getting second place in the race, third overall in the championship. The man who held on to second in the championship is Luka Furlic, stood by with me right now. Luka, this is going to be a very tough race, or it was a very tough race for you. It looked like in the early stages you were going out to attack Pierre, but ultimately when it came to the back end of the race, you found yourself in a defensive stance. Talk us through what happened in terms of going from an offensive mindset to a defensive mindset.
Hello. First of all, I have to say thank you for all the organizers for putting such a good league together with broadcast and everything, and also for my team for making me available for this championship. The race itself, it was what it was. I think the pace was good in the start, but then I just made a mistake, brake a bit too late and went on the grass in that corner. So after that, it was really just managing myself to cool the tires down a bit, get myself together. Unfortunately, the guy behind was a bit close, so that was fun. But luckily, I managed to keep the third place.
Well, you managed to keep the place, but ultimately it was a very tough battle that you had with one Mr. Stoyan Barbakov. Was it a case of relief when you saw Sheldon Scott Muscat pull onto the back and knowing that you didn't have to do maybe as much work when it came to that defending?
No, not really. Racing wheel to wheel is always fun. So, yeah, I haven't had any championship at stake or anything like that. So I was just looking to a good hard race. That's it.
Well, a good hard race. You get yourself second overall in the championship by holding on with a third place finish here today. So that's the first you've heard. So congratulations, you've got a second place. But in terms of moving on forward, how are you going to be looking on in terms of your next bout of sim racing action?
I'll probably find some leagues on R Factor. I'm doing Formula Sim Racing as well this season. So plenty of stuff on R Factor and also in iRacing. So hopefully this organization can put some good leagues together, and I can hopefully qualify for that as well.
Well, hopefully we'll see the best out of you. Luka Furlic there coming home with third position in that race. But ultimately, what we're going to do is going to step aside for one moment because the Pro Division race is coming up after this. And it is must watch because they fight for a grand prize of €2,500. It's all on the table right now as we watch your Griiip G1 Virtual Series 2020. We'll be back in just a few moments' time. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Want to quit your day job? Become a pro streamer. Want to become a pro streamer? Get your panels, overlays, banners, emotes, and more at the Fiverr Twitch store.
This is bad. Wait, let's just do it ourselves.
is not fear that grips him, only restlessness, a heightened sense of things. The smell of engine and sweat, the engine rattling his blood, the crowd roaring. The race is about to start. He breathes deeply to focus. In this league, he finally found what he was looking for. A true passion.
Sono Massimo Paganini e per anni ho cercato una macchina che mi desse gioia, adrenalina nella guida e finalmente l'ho trovata nella G1 Series. Se anche tu vuoi provare una macchina che ti dia gioia e adrenalina, G1 Series 2020.
So, you think you got what it takes to race in the G1 Series? Can you keep your concentration? Even in the most stressed situations, can you keep pushing even when things go wrong? Can you master different environments? Can you adapt immediately to different conditions? Can you keep learning? Learning from your opponents, learning from your mistakes, learning from everyone, anytime, anywhere, until you reach your goal and become the best you can. Think you got what it takes to race in the 2020 G1 Series? Then fill in the form now.
Want real followers? Become a pro streamer. Want to become a pro streamer? Get your panels, overlays, banners, emotes, and more at the Fiverr Twitch store.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to your fantastic Griiip G1 Virtual Series 2020, presented by Fiverr. Hashtag making it work. It is the pro event now here, and it is a championship which is so fraught with brilliant racing, brilliant action. Anything that has happened, will happen, has gone and happened. And this final race, well, it's pretty much down to 3 candidates who can put themselves on the top of the cake at this point in time. How to get first at the moment? This championship is so close. But to tell you how this championship stands, we must go back 1 week into the past. At the Circuit d'Azur, a massive issue relating to a handful of drivers, if not almost half the drivers in the field, meant that with about 10 minutes left to go in the race, a lot of drivers lost their opportunity and retired from the event. What happened was, from that, the result was then taken by everybody involved from the lap before anything happened. Anything that happened after the server issues was declared as a red flag post-mortem, and what that now means is that the championship looks a lot different from where it was. In terms of how that has confirmed the result then in this event, it now means that Jurnej Simoncic picked up the race win overall. It would be second place in that race at the Circuit d'Azur. Erhan Yuyovski and Risto Capit would pick up 3rd place after everything that was said and done. How that now means that the championship looks, it means that Erhan Yuyovski has sole possession of the championship lead. He leads by 5 points on 130 over Risto Capit in 2nd, 125, and Jurne Simoncic in 3rd on 120 points. If Erhan Yuyovski finishes 2nd or higher, he wins the championship by countback. If Jurne Simoncic or Risto Capit wins, they must have Yuyovski finish 3rd position and the other driver behind them finish behind as well. So with all that in mind, the Nürburgring becomes this central hub for racing. And well, Nicholas, I have never seen 3 more willing drivers, more capable drivers, put themselves right at the very top of the pointy end of the championship. Each one of them would be declared a worthy winner, but it's 2 Roman Grosjean esports team cars, or R8G cars, against the 1 Burst esport driver, being, of course, Jurne Simoncic.
It's really quite interesting here because, of course, Risto Capet only won in the 3 who actually only won 1 race, but at the same time, he's the only one who finished all 5 races up until now. Erhan Yuyovski picking up a DNF at Zandvoort and Jurne Simoncic not attending Imola. So, you know, it's really interesting to see how this will play out. If it will play out with Risto Capet's insanely consistency, skills, or if it will play out with the absolute pace that we know from both Jurne Simoncic, especially in open wheelers, or Erhan Yuyovski in basically anything he gets into.
Well, that's going to be crucial. It is worth pointing out right at the very start of this season, it has been drama from minute 1 to minute last. As we get an eye on Caccamagno and what she'll be able to do. She's currently classified down in 15th position here at the moment, so she'll be trying to make her way forward as a driver who will try and find a good result. She will, so we'll see what she is capable of doing here in this event. But I want to bring attention all the way back to the start of the season at Adria International Raceway here, Nicholas, because it was that first race which Jurne Simoncic picked up the win on track, but it was contact with Yuyovski in terms of an overtake that cost him a penalty of 5 seconds. Those 5 seconds really did not help out, as we see Caccamagno with half a face there at this point in time. So that's not quite ideal. I believe the phone needs to be a little bit higher than that. But ultimately, what we were looking at really in terms of that result was that Risto Capit has not actually won a race on track. He's been consistent, he's been seconds, he's been thirds, but he's only had the stewards help him to pick up that 1 race win. How will that play into the mind as qualifying will be starting pretty soon?
I mean, in the end, it doesn't really matter how you win the race, I think, because Erhan did get the penalty in the end with, you know, everything that he had in that race. And Risto got the victory with everything he had while, you know, not getting the penalty. So it's really a thing of if you can push it to the utmost limit and at the same time, you know, keep it clean enough or, you know, just not get into the situation where you can get a penalty. So I think Risto Capit has as much chance to win the championship as any of the other 2. At the same time, Erhan Yuyovski has shown incredible consistency as well, but of course, with the DNF at Zandvoort, he really didn't help his chances. He could have this wrapped up by now with 2 wins and 2 second places, but the DNF really slowed him down in the end. So it's really quite interesting to see how this will play out. Meanwhile, Jurne Simoncic, the lone non-R8G driver, trying to go for the attacker. He had 2 very strong last races with 2 wins, and I think he would love to make it a 3rd one.
Absolutely he would, and to get 3 in a row to end the season and try and pick up a championship on top of that, as well as the amazing drive that they had in the virtual Le Mans 24 hours with the Bikerless team. That could be something that Jurne Simoncic puts himself in. Qualifying about to start, and here's the mad scramble that we're going to see of drivers coming down onto pit entry. Of course, there's a red light down at the bottom of the lane, and they'll be hoping to get going. Yuyovski, the North Macedon, will be looking to try and get going first, and there's Jesper Eriksson trying to steal through. 10 minutes on the clock, already starting at this point in time, and they get themselves going without too many worries at all down towards the opening corner. But I want to point out an attention down to where the prize pool stacks, because the money here on this presented by Fiverr, the €5,000, it goes all the way down to 7th place, and that becomes a really interesting battle when you consider at this point in time, firstly, there is, in terms of this field, no Mishi Hoyer here today. So Hoyer currently the Guardian in 7th on 43 points. He won't be scoring, nor will Davin Mrozic there with 38 points in 8th place. So Diego Ramos becomes the easiest driver to gain those places, and there are 4 drivers to keep in mind today who need a good result to pull up past 43 points. One is Diego Ramos, one is Jason Muscat, one is Jesper Eriksson, and the other is Alexander Dornaden. And in terms of Dornaden and his, I would say, influence in terms of the championship, being someone from Veloce Esports, has had a lot of high-profile results come his way. This has been a disappointing championship for him, even not necessarily more so than Yuri Kadstorp at this point in time, but Dornaden still has that chance to pick up at least €50 here for a 7th place in the championship.
And out of the drivers there, despite being pretty much the lowest guy in the standings for that, from 8th to 12th, I think Dornaden has quite good chances. He has a very long sim racing history on all sorts of simulators. I've seen it on basically everything that moves. So he's really a very fast driver to always keep in mind. And let's see if he can make that point gap, because what he has to keep in mind as well here is, I think the only way he can actually beat Hoyer in this is if he gets at least a 4th place finish. So this is quite a high number, especially in a field this competitive, because, despite the top 3, we also have Peter Vreliak, Alex Siebel, Dennis Jordan. Those 3 guys, in places 4 to 6, they are incredibly fast. And, I don't think that they will just back down and say, here, Alex, get those $50, next drink is on me. They will fight for every position they can have in the championship, so they will not just let anyone through.
And of course, all of these drivers will be looking to push for their own battles. This is Alex Siebel that we're seeing on screen in the Evolution Motorsports Griiip G1 here at this moment in time, making that push down towards the Dunlop hairpin at this point in time. And you can see here on board, driver's eye perspective here, a whole lot of steering angle trying to get that one turned in. So Alex Siebel will be looking to try and put himself at the very, very pointy end of this one, and we will be expecting here in the next few moments, first time coming on the board with Erhan Yayovsky, the first driver to be coming over the line as Siebel makes his way now through the long right, as we look now at Yayovsky with a pretty nice middle sector going through there. It was purple, so makes that push over towards the line. We'll see what Yayovsky will set as the benchmark here in these 10 minutes of qualifying that we've got for us. No DRS, they pass the marker board, but over the line, 44.8. The benchmark at the moment. Here comes Simoncic behind, trying to improve on that, and he does a 44.9, so he's a 10th and almost 2 tenths behind as Capit goes fastest.
And that is exactly what I meant. Capit, he really is a guy, if he can't make it on pure pace, he will put in the effort to be able to make it on his pace. And Yayovsky and Simoncic, of course, very fast drivers just by nature, but Capit really is the man to walk the extra mile, to put in the effort, to give himself the maximum amount of chances. And really, after those 3 guys, we have a quite big gap at the moment. Peter Vreliak actually had to break off his lap just at the end, and Diego Ramos, actually, the man who is right behind Mrozic and Michi Hoyer in the standings, he is now just 5 tenths behind, just 2.5 tenths behind Simoncic, and 5 to 6 tenths actually in front of Jesper Eriksson.
It's almost like Diego Ramos has flicked a switch and he's found some pace here in this vehicle. It's been absolutely fantastic to see Diego Ramos really making that progress up through the field over the course of these 6 weeks, and ultimately what that has been able to get him to do is now put him into 4th position here in qualifying, and that 4th position is magical at this stage for him, because if he can get that in the race, he jumps into 7th in the championship. But the one worry he'll have from behind is that it's Jesper Eriksson in 5th position in the TX3 car. So that's going to be a little bit concerning for Diego Ramos. He's got a fight for the majority of these 30 minutes that we have here today. So, Capik, Yayovsky, Simoncic, Ramos, Eriksson, your top 5. Then it's Siebel, Jordan, Kasdorp, and then Muscat and Ottaviani. They're running out the top 10 as Simoncic finds a good 3/10 to move to pole by nearly 2. And if that's not a statement of intent, I don't know what is. Alex Siebel as well going to 5th. Simoncic has pulled a rabbit out of a hat with 4 minutes to go.
That is just the thing. Jene Simoncic, open wheelers are his thing, especially on R-Factor 2. An absolute force of nature in these cars, and when you just think that maybe, you know, he will start the race not from pole position, he gets up that next lap, but he cannot sleep, because right now, that close behind that actually, then is Jordan, only 3.5 tenths behind, goes into P4. So, I have to say this here, we really do have a high quality grid here.
Absolutely we do. 6 drivers yet to set a time. Those are Petr Briliak, Kirill Birakov,
Cosimo Papi, Alexander Dorniden.
Are the drivers who are yet to set a time. So they will be looking to try and get themselves some good laps. But you also have to remember, drivers out on track right now, they'll be looking at those hot track temperatures and going, well, maybe we've only got one flying lap where the tyres are in their best operating window, Nicholas.
Well, that is exactly the thing. Of course, we noticed the quite faster lap times than also the M Series. But that is just also a sign of, you know, how high profile these drivers are, how much, you know, effort they put into the setup, and, you know, maybe even how much support from the team they have. Because when you reach top-level sim racing, it really gets highly competitive. Really, really highly competitive. And even though, you know, it seems like, you know, the drivers who are, for example, over 1 second behind in, you know, Alex Siebel, Jesper Eriksson, Yuri Kasdorp, besides that, they are still incredibly fast drivers. And you really just have to keep that in mind. They're not messing about.
Absolutely not. It's a who's who at the moment. Yayovsky down into pits will have to get one outlap, and he will have one flywheel. The North Macedon, it's a Croatian, up at the top of the field as Simoncic will come over the line, go on to start a flying lap. Capik, the Estonian, in 2nd position right now. 5 different nationalities inside of the top 5. An improvement from Jason Muscat puts him into 8th place as Kasdorp goes for a big spin and hits the tyres. So he's probably going to have abandoned everything at this point in time. That was right there as Capik went through. First sector, 34.4. He's slower in sector 1. That's crucial then. Risto Capik's got to find a bit more here, and he has a lock-up as he goes through in. You can see concentration on his face. He heads up through the Schumacher S, nice and minimal as he goes through the right, and he gets a whole heap of curb through the second part of the Schumacher S. Next corner comes up, and now Risto Capik here trying to compromise, or trying to find that time, and is searching for it actively instead of letting it come back to him at this stage, Nicholas.
You can really see from his racing line, he's trying to carry the maximum amount of momentum through there. Both sectors so far in red, but it's still not yet over. As we know, through the Vidal chicane, you can lose and also win quite a lot of time. He clips the curves up perfectly. Very nice line there. And now heading into the Hyundai N curve. Last corner of the circuit, and now carrying the momentum. See him go onto the curb on the outside just perfectly. And can he improve?
No.
Not quite.
Not quite, but he's got 1 minute to go, so this will be his final lap. Yayovsky gearing up for it. Simoncic on a flyer right now. He'll have one more lap after this. He gears it up. A nice wide entry there through the Hyundai N curve, and now looking to go for one big lap. We have seen drivers improve. Kirill Birakov is now up to 8th. Cosimo Papi into 10th and pretty much out of the session now. Ottaviani will not improve either at this stage. Capik will not improve. His lap not good enough as he tried to go on through. So Risto Capik's got nothing. It's a showdown now between Simoncic, Yayovsky, and of course you've got Dennis Jordan at this stage, who is the wild card in all of this. Crossed the line with 15 seconds to go, meaning that his time could be the most vital out of anybody's at this stage in time. So for the time being, Jene Simoncic is heading himself now through the curves. Yayovsky Yovski will be behind him, seeing what he'll do every stage of the way as going on through. We'll keep an eye for the entire lap on Jerne Simoncic at this moment. Now making his way to the Dunlop hairpin on the brakes. Big slide going through that section. I think that might be a case where the lap's not going to come back at this stage. So it could be a case of this one not working at this stage in time for Jerne Simoncic. So maybe Erhan Yovski can find that quarter of a second at this stage, and this could be a big case of Erhan Yovski maybe stealing one at the death. Timer has expired. Stiebel currently in 6th. Ericsson will go no higher than 7th. Ramos no higher than 5th place at the moment. Simoncic with a bit of traffic in front. That will not be helpful. That's Manuel Biancaliglia there in front. One of the real-world drivers as part of this series, making an effort to go through, and is caught just at the worst time as Simoncic going through. Is there anything left? The draft may help on the run to the line, though. Give a fraction more. 1:44.553 does not improve. Yovski, 1:44.3! What a time! Right at the death! Right at the clutch! Brilliant goes 5th as well, just behind for the Williams Esports outfit. But Yovski has done it again! Coming over the line. Is there anything he can't do when it comes to qualifying action? Still, though, a handful of drivers left out on track. Jason Muscat trying to improve on 11th position right now. He's just behind Dean Vella. The Malta Motorsport car trying to come over the line. Jumps up to 8th place at the end of the session, ahead of Jesper Eriksson. One of the key rivals Jason Muscat is going to have here today. Matthias Stumpf is in the pits. Tom Beckhauser as well going around track. Everyone across the line. Yovski on pole. Simoncic alongside. Capit starts from 3rd. It's going to be a treat here, ladies and gentlemen. But we're going to step aside for one moment. We'll be back with the race after this. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Want to quit your day job? Become a pro streamer. Want to become a pro streamer? Get your panels, overlays, banners, emotes, and more at the Fiverr Twitch store.
This is bad. Wait, let's just do it ourselves.
is not fear that grips him, only restlessness, a heightened sense of things. The smell of engine and sweat, the engine rattling his blood, the crowd roaring. The race is about to start. He breathes deeply to focus. In this league, he finally found what he was looking for. A true passion.
Sono Massimo Paganini e per anni ho cercato una macchina che mi desse gioia, adrenalina nella guida e finalmente l'ho trovata nella G1 Series. Se anche tu vuoi provare una macchina che ti dia gioia e adrenalina, G1 Series 2020.
So, you think you got what it takes to race in the G1 Series? Can you keep your concentration? Even in the most stressed situations, can you keep pushing even when things go wrong? Can you master different environments? Can you adapt immediately to different conditions? Can you keep learning? Learning from your opponents, learning from your mistakes, learning from everyone, anytime, anywhere, until you reach your goal and become the best you can. Think you got what it takes to race in the 2020 G1 Series? Then fill in the form now.
Want real followers? Become a pro streamer. Want to become a pro streamer? Get your panels, overlays, banners, emotes, and more at the Fiverr Twitch store.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to your Griiip G1 Virtual Series 2020, presented by Fiverr. Hashtag making it work. And it's making it work here on World Pro Racing YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch, on the ESR 24/7 Esports Network, on ESPN, on TVM Sport, and on Motorsport TV as well. What a qualifying it was that we have just seen. Best placed is the man who is on top of the championship right now. A top two gives him the championship, but his two nearest contenders, his two rivals, are just behind. One, of course, being his teammate. One, of course, being the ever-incomparable Jerne Simoncic out on track. It's going to be a showdown. I'm Jake Sperry. That's Nicholas Hillebrand alongside me. And, well, Nicholas, that qualifying was fantastic. It was a case of push the bar, how high do you jump? And Erhan Yayovsky right at the end said, how high? I'll show you how high I can jump. This is going to be a battle in between turn one, but if 1 week ago was anything to go by, those top three, they are going to stay with each other for a very long time in this race.
It's going to be a very close race, I presume, especially because of the three we have here. Two of them, of course, are teammates, but I don't think, especially considering their championship position, that is going to matter much to them. After all, the difference alone, I mean, they are still in either way very profitable situations. First place gets 2,500 euros, second place gets 1,000 euros, but that is still 1,500 euros difference that is going to make place 1 and 2, and I don't think that either of them is going to be so generous as to just let someone else through. So, and Yoyoski, just with that last moment pole position, absolutely fantastic once again, and you could see on the camera how happy he was, taking a big sip, staying hydrated, and just really showing once again that he's masterclass. He was in basically all the big competitions, McLaren Shadow, World Fastest Gamer, and every single time he just barely lost out. But I don't think that he will completely want to give up with that. He is still going to stay very competitive. He was very competitive at the virtual 24 hours of Le Mans. And once again, as we saw in the qualifying here, he's very competitive here.
Well, it's going to be very competitive, but a lot of drivers now having a conversation with the stewards about that warm-up formation lap that these drivers are going to have. We're about 1:40 away from the starting grid and the formation lap, but what's key is that all of these drivers are trying to go as slow as possible. All of these drivers at the front are trying to stay as slow as possible because they are so concerned, they are so worried about blowing up the engine on the start because of the fact they've had to wait so long, and that engine really does not like being on and idle whilst it waits. That's the worry that these drivers are going to have on that formation lap. That's one reason why they've been so slow. The other has been the fact that they've been trying to conserve as much fuel as possible for these races. It was back at Silverstone where it was very much fuel on the line as drivers tried to make their results happen. We could be in a similar situation today, but it all depends on these drivers and how quickly they're going to go on the formation lap.
Yeah, most definitely. It's going to be very interesting here. We saw earlier in the AM race how some people already had their engines smoking, but at the same time, this is also an even longer race. This is 10 minutes longer, and with that, you want even less of, just standing time. There were quite a few results I saw in the standings with the engine being the reason for DNF, so I think a lot of people will be concerned about that. And of course, as you mentioned with the fuel, they really want to make it just on the bare minimum they can carry for the 30-minute race, because, as we said earlier, with a car that only weighs 400 kilos, every liter counts.
Every litre counts. Every litre matters. Every position in this upcoming race will matter. You've got some of the greatest drivers that sim racing has to offer. Simoncic, Capit, Yayovsky, all of whom will be trying to make sure that a victory is in their hands and a championship of this Griiip G1 Virtual Series 2020 is theirs to collect. Well, we've got warm-up all but complete. Drivers now will start to grid themselves then up here in the next couple of moments' time, which will happen right now. Confirmation of the grid. Erhan Yayovsky is on pole position for R8G Esports. That's Roman Grosjean's team. He's on pole position. Burst Esports, Jurne Simoncic alongside. Behind him is Risto Capit and Dennis Jordan in the Evolution Motorsports car. Williams Esports, Petr Briliak in 5th. And the first of the real-world drivers in Diego Ramos starts 6th. Alex Siebel and Jason Muscat are on row 4, with Jesper Eriksson in the TX3 car 9th and Kirill Birakov in 10th. From there, it's Dean Vella and Yuri Kazdorp, with Cosimo Papi and Paul Auguslana on row 7. Row 8 is an all-Italian affair with Alessandro Ottaviani and Manuel Biancalillia. Then it's Mateusz Stumpf, Kaka Magno, Ricardinho Gracia, then Tom Beckhauser and Alexander Dornaden will be starting from the very back of the grid here today, so that's going to be something worth keeping in mind for all of these drivers as they go onto the formation lap. This is where the nerves start to come into play here as we see these drivers go through. Yayovsky in control of the field, he's got clean air in front, but that start, it will pretty much set the tone for the entirety of the event. If any one of those two drivers behind can get themselves down the inside of Yayovsky, he's got a tougher time in this race. Yayovsky is a driver here, Nicholas, who is a lot more comfortable when he's in position 1.
Well, it's going to be very interesting indeed, because, we have Erhan at the front trying to fight a defensive battle, while right in front of his championship rivals, The difficulty as well from the complete other side of the grid will be for Alexander Dorniden, because he didn't do a qualifying lap, so he has to fight his entire way through the field. And as we mentioned earlier, he has to be up in 4th place to get into that 7th place spot. So it might very well be that he might not make it. But then again, it's 30 minutes, anything can happen. And we saw just now already someone in the grass. So it's going to be very, very intense, and I'm very excited to see how Alexander Dorniden, knowing his racecraft, knowing his pace from races where I actually competed against him, or actually competed far behind him, because he's just a very fast guy, I'm very excited to see how he turns this race around.
I absolutely agree. His drivers now come up the hill through the Schumacher S and look to try and push on forward here at this one and try and make sure that they are scouting the final things that they need. They're all staying to a rhythm, to a limit. They want to drive as well as they possibly can. And when these drivers get up onto the grid, that's where the nerves will tell. Drivers will hope that their run in turn 1 is not going to be fraught with disaster. Any little bit of contact could be disastrous for these drivers. They go on through as drivers will test their brakes. They'll test their launch, they'll test their start as they go on through and hope they get themselves going forward. But here's my one question for you, Nicholas, before we get over to racing action. Who's your pick for the title?
If it was any other 3 drivers, or if you take 1 or 2 of the others out of the equation, I would say that definitive driver. But those 3 at the front, who could say like a definitive person there? Because Erhan Jajoski, of course, his name speaks for himself. Yannis Ivancic, of course, as well, and Risto Capet, he has been insanely, just consistent everywhere. Very good pace. He has a lot of knowledge with setups. So it's going to be very difficult, because I think for Risto and Yanni, the best overall outcome would be if Erhan finishes in 3rd, while Erhan just has to finish in 2nd for himself, next to the other 2, because he has these 2 wins. Yanni has 2 wins as well, and Risto has 1 win. So, just for example, if Risto were to win this race, and Erhan would finish in 2nd, he's catching up the 2 points, but Erhan still has a bigger amount of 2nd place finishes. So it's just very, very difficult to tell the outcome here. For the race, I think Erhan has the stuff to, defend this race, but at the same time, he's starting next to the worst guy to start next to, Yannis Ivancic, a master of starts, very long FSR career, and a lot from the races already that he's an insanely fast guy, but that goes for about, 50% of the grid down.
Yes. Absolutely. All drivers are in position. They're going to get themselves ready. Lights on. One final race. 30 minutes of time. It starts now. Good start there. There's a slow start there from Jason Muscat in the background. Immediately line astern as they go through towards turn number 1. There you can see Yayovsky defending for everything that he's worth. On the brakes into turn number 1. Slightly takes the wider line. Allows Simoncic alongside to try and go through. But it's off camber through turn 2. And he can't find a way through just yet. Yayovsky survived the toughest place to get things going. But Simoncic knows that he wakes up about halfway through the race and uses his tyre saving abilities to go through. Mid-pack scrapping her along as well. 3 wide in the background. Paul August Lada getting a little bit of contact.
This will be very interesting here. You could see Yanni just sticking with him with a bit of a wider line, just not taking a quite as hard tight line. Sorry, there was the word. But at the same time, further down the field, we see it on the broadcast here. Alexander Dorniden from 21st after 6 corners up to 15th already.
Well,
and you can really see that pace.
You can see it's 1 place per corner at the moment, and immediately trying to get past Manuel Biancalilla here for 14th place. So he'll want to try and get by as quickly as possible. He's looking every which way through the Schumacher S. He's got himself alongside, but he's on the wrong side to get this one done. On the brakes, around the outside. That is well done. He's got the inside for the next corner, and Alexander Dorniden has got the place. Someone is off down a certain section of road, I think. I think quite catch who that was. I think it was Cosimo Papi. Yes, you're absolutely right. But they're side by side. Oh, contact there for Diego Ramos. He's fighting with Alex Siebel. Oh, and they're both off. And through goes Jesper Eriksson.
So much action through the entire field. Alex Siebel really losing out a lot there. And Dornigan is still not through with Biancolilla, but Biancolilla a little bit of an oversteer moment there. Jesper Eriksson now, also just pulling away tightly there. There's so many battles going on, it's really hard. You don't know where to look. And at the same time, I think, yeah, Alexander Dornigan got himself a little bit of a breather now.
Oh, and a bit of drama behind as Birikov slide through the corner. Kazdorp runs into the back of Siebel through turn 1 and runs into the back of him again through turn 2. There goes Birikov down the inside of Vela, trying to get the move, but Dean Vela has that one scouted. So the mid-pack really, really heating up. At the front, it's 8/10 for Erhan Yayovsky compared to Jurnej Simoncic at the moment. Capit 3rd, Jordan 4th, Briliak 5th, Eriksson in 6th. Needs to get back to Briliak and Jordan here if he wants to get 7th place in the championship and get a little bit of money to go into this race. In all of this, Alexander Dornigan up to 13th place at the moment, but it seems for the time being that Simoncic needs to find that groove quickly here at the front of the field.
Most definitely, but I do think he is able to go the pace of Erhan, especially over consistency, and as you said right at the start, tire conservation. He is really an exceptional driver, just a bit wide there, just barely touching the gravel there, so a little bit of a worse exit, but you can see him just keeping to the inside of the Advanbogen, trying to give Risto Capet as little slipstream as possible, taking a very good line through the Vidal chicane now, and you can really just see, you know, the gap opens up a little bit, but then it also shrinks down a bit again, and it's going to be really exciting to see if they can keep going this pace, or if they will make mistakes like we had it in the AM race, because if any of those three make mistakes, Dennis Jordan is there like a great white shark right behind them in his blue car, and right on the tail of them. So, you know, if it's just these three positions at the front, if they were by themselves, it would be an exciting battle already. But if one of them messes up, Dennis Jordan is right there and ready to mix up the top 3 fight in the championship even more.
Here comes Dornigan down the inside of Yuri Kazdorp. He just lost the place to him, so he was up into 12th, but now down into 13th, and again, can't quite pick up the move. Just a little bit further in front. This is where the train stops then, from 8th place backwards. This is Alessandro Ottaviani at the moment here, with Dean Vela just behind him, wanting that 8th place at the moment, and that 8th place will accumulate to about 8 points overall right now, so that's going to be a crucial 1 point here, 1 point there as they go on through. A few lockups here and there as they ride on by, but really no dramas as they go on through. 1 second broken at the front of the field, as well as this battle going on right in front of Ottaviani. Scrappers, we're on board with him right now. You can see in front those two cars fighting. That's Jesper Eriksson and Diego Ramos fighting it out over 6th position here in this race.
And they're quite close together there, just barely over 3/10, and that is right in the slipstream range, but not quite in attacking range for Diego Ramos. So he's going to try and stay very clean through this chicane here, as we're on board with him. Very nice tight line, bit tighter than Eriksson, so he has a little bit more traction as he was on the asphalt instead of the AstroTurf on the outside. A bit tighter line here as well, so he can just keep up that racing line a little bit more, stays on the well-rubbered line a little bit more. And now he has a very good run down to turn 1. Which side is he going to pick? He's going to try go for the inside. Brakes a little bit earlier, eases off the brake, and perfectly goes past. And yes, Eriksson can counter that right now, but we still have the rest of the Mercedes arena as they're so close together. As he now looks down the inside, just barely doesn't hit him.
There you can see nose to tail as they go through side by side in the background there. Look at Birikov and Vela right now. Birikov on the outside in the HM Engineering car, finding a way at Vela, not quite able to get that one done. This is the issue with battling in the middle of the pack. The more that you stay behind a driver, you get bogged down, you get frustrated. That's when the chances for drivers behind seem to come along, and Birikov now has mirrors full of Siebel, looking to try and pick up another place here in this one for 10th overall. Siebel close at the moment, but not quite able to get it done here at the right hand homage to the carousel, the Dunlop curve, but look at how Vela has gone from defensive to offensive here through the Schumacher-esque. Ottaviani really slow through this section, and Vela moves to the left-hand side of the circuit, trying to get it done around the outside, but cannot find the move.
Just didn't carry just enough momentum out of the Schumacher-esque there. You could really see he was starting to gain on Ottaviani there, but then his momentum just stopped because I think Vela might be running a little bit more downforce. But yeah, Ottaviani just able to stay ahead for now, while right at the back of Vela, we have Birokov and Alex Siebel. And Alex Siebel, of course, way further back than he started with his mistake on lap 1. He's not going to be happy with that. And, you know, just as the top 4 drivers, and, well, not just them, but, you know, just so many drivers in this field, they're all top-rated drivers. And I don't think that any of them are going to want to let this go. Just as you see, just a little bit further back, Alexander Dorniden just dropped a little bit back from Yuri Kastop and is now being caught by Jason Muscat and Manuel Biancalilla just on his tail.
Well, the question now for Dorniden is, has he picked up any damage at all to the suspension or anything like that? That could be a little bit worrying in terms of the way this race is going. At the front, here's the big worry for the championship right now for Simoncic and Capit. Yayovsky has gone off like a whippet at the front of this field. He is 1.8 seconds clear at the moment at the last sector checkpoint. So now you start thinking about what Jurne Simoncic thinking of. Yes, it takes a little while to get the tyres up to temperature. We're already 8 minutes into the race. If they're not up to temperature by now, if he's not finding the pace by now, Erhan Yayovsky is absolutely flying at this point in time. But we must stress Zandvoort, where he crashed out of the race from the lead, and that, of course, for Erhan Yayovsky would be the one thing in his mind at the moment.
Yeah, I think that is why he's trying to create a big gap right at the start here. Also, the risk with that is, of course, not just having the tires on temperature, but going far over the temperature, which is very easy to do when you're pushing on the limit here. And especially with the Nürburgring, where you don't have that many longer straights, but you're basically always just on smaller straights in between corners.
Oh my goodness, up and over goes Dean Vela. Contact with Ottaviani at Vido there. Side by side they went, contact and flipping went Dean Vela, and that has allowed a whole boatload of drivers to gain position. A massive moment. We catch it on replay here. Dean Vela going for the inside, trying to pick up the move, and there you can see contact. Oh, the door slightly closed a little bit. It was tough to see. It was late from Vela as well, ever so slightly. Never had all 4 wheels along. But that means that Vela's race is pretty much all but done. It moves Birokov to 8th, Siebel to 9th, Kasdorp to 10th, and Dorniden to 11th.
That is basically a freebie for all of them. And I think that there was another person who just lost out quite a bit, but I couldn't quite catch it. A flipping car can be quite distracting in such a situation. But yeah, it still remains very close. And Yayovsky just continuing his charge there. Just staying away from the rest of the pack and trying to stay outside of slipstream range. And meanwhile, also, Yannis Simoncic is able to gain a little bit of time from Risto Capit, 1.2 seconds now, and Dennis Jordan 1.4 seconds. So they're all just moving a little bit into their own bubble, moving a little bit into their own groove, and I think, you know, that is what they want for now.
Well, you're not going to move too much into a bubble if you're going to go that far, and Mateusz Stumpf now out of the event, so that's a shame, and I wonder how that one's happened. Ricardinho Gracia has run out of fuel, forgot to put race fuel in, it seems, but I think Mateusz Stumpf's straight on there with a technical issue, so that's out of the race in that regard. But what is crucial right now is that Capit is struggling to stay with those in the right positions in front. The gap is 2.2 seconds here at the front of the field, and every other position now is fighting as Dorniden's off there at the chicane. Alexander Dorniden goes through an advertising hoarding, now hitting the brakes, and I think his race is over. I think his race is done. I think, yes, Alexander Dorniden is out.
Very disappointing finish for his race there, but that is also how quickly it can go. I think he just realized, possibly as well, either he had damage or maybe he realized that he would not be able to make that up to 4th place. So, you know, different motivations sometimes, but either way, still a fantastic charge to watch for these 7 laps, or well, 6 laps that he did. And now we are here with Jason Muscat in the next fight against Alessandro Ottaviani. And right behind him is also Paul August Lane, who has just been gaining a little bit more and more.
Oh, just about saving it there. He was so lucky, and that is a golden goose of an opportunity now for Jason Muscat to try and close in the gap on the brakes into the Dunlop curve, and not quite there. But Ottaviani had 0.6 of a second, and he's done so well to save that place out on circuit. Has to be careful of cut tracks, but running wide like that, I think he could just get away with it there at that point in time. So that's going to be a little bit of a false flag being brought up by Ottaviani. He's now got to really dial back in again.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was a mistake that we saw quite a lot already. You know, just getting carried a little bit too far outside. You want to carry the maximum speed through turn 5, and he just barely overdid it, but he kept it together, kept it, you know, still on track, kept it not spinning to the left into the wall. So Ottaviani in the 22 car can keep the man with the number 11, Jason Muscat, right behind him for now. And right behind that, Paul August Lane is now in a fight with Cosimo Papi, who is now, of course, trying to charge back through the field. He had an off earlier in the race, lost quite a few positions there, and of course wants to charge back through. Of course, now already in the position for points again, but I don't think that he will be happy with just 1 point. He wants more.
The Clash car wants to find a way through, and Paul August Lane is very firmly saying no. Got to find a different way to get around me as Ottaviani and Muscat continue on their scrap. Want to keep an eye on this battle, though, for 4th and 5th place on the road, though. At this point in time, we're on board with Jason Muscat trying to go through. This is Dennis Jordan versus Petr Briliak at the moment. Evolution Motorsports versus Williams Esports at the moment. And this is a key little scrap that these two drivers are having right now. They are both in the top 7 in this championship. Briliak is 4th, Jordan is 5th. The difference between them 15 points, but crucially, Petr Briliak right now knows that he is not going to lose any more places by staying here in 5th overall, but he is putting the pressure on Dennis Jordan and hoping that something happens with the leaders right now, half distance at the end of next lap. They are going to be fighting really hard at this moment in time as Kasdorp's off.
Very unfortunate for him there. He was right on the tail of Alex Siebel. Even saw him bump drafting just after that accident earlier. So, you know, he's not going to be very happy with that. Actually, lets a lot of people through there.
Oh, it's a horrible accident. He has smashed into the tyres there coming out of the Vorsteiner curve. And just like that, Yuri Kasdorp, no front wing, dives down into the pit. This has been a season to forget for a driver who normally is up there with the likes of Yuyovsky, Simoncic and Capit.
Most definitely. Also one of the drivers who was competing in the virtual Le Mans 24 last weekend. For Toyota nonetheless. And yeah, I don't think that is how he wanted his race to go. As we switch back to Alessandro Ottaviani against Jason Muscat, as they are right behind each other coming out of the Mercedes arena now. And Muscat just a little bit less momentum out of the corner, but he has the slipstream, looking for the inside, trying to put Ottaviani a little bit under pressure, and it works! Looking for the outside, later apex there, with a little bit more momentum into the corner, and can keep the gap quite nicely. Just keep on looking down that inside, keep on feinting attacks, and, you know, maybe you can put up enough pressure to the person in front that he makes a mistake and you can just pass on through. But otherwise, you have to fight through brutally and maybe even a little bit dirty. But everything is quite clean here. Looking for the outside now, coming into the corner.
And trying to find it, not quite there, but trying to set up again. This is a tactical game of chess. They're playing at over 200 kph at this point in time, trying to get themselves up through the gears, looking for the opportunity. Ottaviani under pressure now, has to stay defensive here into Vidal, but you can see again Muscat to the outside, trying to pick up that move. cannot quite find it just yet. Ottaviani using that real-world experience just to place the car as and where it needs to overall here in this race. Keep an eye on Alex Siebel, though. He's trying to go to the outside of Kirill Birikov, just in front of them here at the moment. Side by side off the exit. Can he have a nose to the inside at turn number 2? Answer to that one is no. And as such, Birikov holds on for another, well, couple of corners at least.
I just barely kept alive enough momentum here. And I do realize I'm saying this a lot, but it is really just one of the very important things to keep alive in this car. Because the car only weighs 400 kilos, and 205 horsepower to have in this sort of car is absolutely humongous, of course. But you still need to keep up that momentum, because overall it's still not the amount of power that you can just out-accelerate people. Oh!
Manuel Biancalilla out of the race. We were just looking at Cosimo Papi and Paul August Lana, but on his own, Manuel Biancalilla from 10th place out of the race. He got it all wrong there, down the hill, hard into the wall, and the suspension takes a huge toll, and out goes Manuel Biancalilla from this event, just like in that.
Just very unlucky. Once again, the turn 5 and 6 killer should have maybe gone to the Ottaviani driving school of saving the car on the thread there. But, of course, very extreme situation. It's just so tempting to take a little bit too much road there until you realize that there's no road left to take. But, yeah, the race goes on, and so does the fight between Jason Muscat and Alessandro Ottaviani, which has now moved up to the fight for 10th place.
It absolutely has, as well as the fight for 9th and 8th place as well on the road. So these two scraps happening almost in tandem at the moment, with no look in the group in front. So Ottaviani now will try and get himself a run through, but Birikov holding well. But this is Ottaviani trying to hold off that gap, and they can see a difference of about 2 car lengths there as they hit onto the brakes. No chance of getting a dive down the inside from that far back in terms of this race at the moment. At the front of the field, the gap now up to 3.2 seconds for Erhan Yayovsky. He's got himself 11 minutes to go here in this race. All he has to do is hold on to this right now, and you can see right now his concentration as he goes up through. Little adjustment now to his hair as he goes through, and remember, it's going to be a hot box in terms of the way that he is driving at the moment, and he is doing a stellar job at the moment. Everything that he's asked for, he knows that the best place to be is position number 1.
At the same time, you really have to see here, though, not just, he's not just sitting there with full concentration, but there really isn't any stress in his face either. He's just really sitting there completely dead relaxed, dead silent. He just doesn't really seem to be under any sort of stress, while he's sort of like steadily still building the gap over other world-class drivers like Yanni Simoncic and Risto Caput. And of course, world-class... Oh, and just like that, with no stress whatsoever, he just keeps on building and building and building like a kid with a new Lego set.
Absolutely, it's fantastic to see, and getting the fastest lap of the race as well that last time by 1:45.725. Took a full quarter of a second off of Jerne Simoncic, opens the gap to 3.3 seconds. It is started to close, though, in the battle for 4th and 5th. Briliak now with 0.1 of a second here of Dennis Jordan, who is now looking at that 4th place position that he holds, which is the gate for Diego Ramos right now, who's 11 seconds back of this group. Petr Briliak will want to way through. He'll want to go up to 4th place. Any points help, and he'll be looking at this going, well, anything can happen in sim racing. It normally does, and Petr Briliak will need to find a way through sooner rather than later, but it's been a case of almost like trying to chip off the marble in the Sistine Chapel at this point, trying to find a move that's going to get done.
It will be very difficult. Dennis Jordan is one of the very consistent guys. Maybe not quite on edge with pace as the people right ahead of him there, but he's nevertheless a very, very talented driver. Won the Virtual Endurance Championship before already in Division 1 in the LMP2 car. So very, very interesting indeed here. And of course, Petr Briliak is very well known already for his long time in FSR. So we're really having a fantastic battle here for the first place after the podium.
Absolutely we are, and this is almost best of the rest at this point. They haven't lost too much ground to like Risto Capit. They're only 4 seconds off the pace of that at the moment, but we got some great scrapping going on again. Muscat and Ottaviani here for the final spot inside of the top 10. Nose to tail here on the run out of Ad Van Bogen. Here's the chance. Can't shut the door quick enough here, can Ottaviani. So Muscat down the inside, but crucially it switches back. Opportunity on the inside now is Ottaviani as they hit the brakes. He's had one moment here. He will hope it's not two. Bit of contact as they go through. Muscat's forced off wide and has to really slow it down to avoid the penalty. You can see he was weaving there to check whether the suspension was damaged, and now Koshimo Papi with the chance.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see because he had that much more momentum coming out of the Bildstein curve.
Oh, through.
Oh, that yeah, that is the next battle. Just barely can keep up. But yeah, Ottaviani just really had that defense still going there. And as you could see there, you know, coming into the VL chicane, that just really couldn't keep up there with the momentum that he initially had. Ottaviani running a little bit more, well, a little bit less downforce, so a bit more straight line speed focused, which really saved his gearbox there from being behind. And yeah, just once again running very onto the limit of the straight there, of this little tiny straight between turn 5 and 6.
Yeah.
And now heading down to the Mühlenbach-Schleife.
It's closer now than ever between Jordan and Briliac, down to 0.3 of a second at this point in time. It's the closest that Briliac's been in this race. Not quite able to get this one to happen then, with not long remaining in this one. Simoncic as well is under pressure as a look from Petr Briliac comes in, because Capit's brought the gap down under a second for the first time in about 15 minutes or so. So that's going to be juicy towards the end of this race. But Dennis Jordan here, under pressure from Petr Briliac, closing in the draft, having to defend slightly. Which way do you go, Petr? Goes to the outside, trying to look for it. Jordan hangs it in a bit deep, just about grabs some acceleration and some traction out of the corner, and just about saves the place.
Yeah, Jordan really got lucky there that Briliac, just as the track dips down a little bit, you know, he had that same movement there. Oh, Virukov? Oh yeah. That is very weird as well. Maybe a penalty there, or, you know, maybe a cut track penalty, which is not that uncommon. Because, you know, really pushing on the limit here, and of course the NGK chicane as well, you know, easy place to get a penalty. But Briliac still right all over Dennis Jordan, and it's really hard to tell who will be the one to emerge victorious here. Briliac going for an earlier apex, but really kind of compromising his exit out of the Dunlop hairpin here. Coming through the Schumacher S now, and where does he want to go? Does he want to look to the inside? No, he looks to the outside, a little bit later on the brakes, and he hangs around the outside, but just hangs a little bit too far.
You can see you can see on entry there, he took a double take. He was like, do I go left, do I go right? I'm not quite sure, and ultimately had to commit one way or the other. So again up the hill, trying to get the run here to get past Dennis Jordan, who is as cool as you like at this point in time. Not really worried or concerned about anything at this point as we head into the final 5 minutes now of this race. Briliac close again, but not quite able to get that one working. Muscat and Ottaviani 9th and 10th, still close as well out on track, but Briliac here at the moment down the straight, looking for the run to try and work at this stage. Is there going to be a look to the inside? He'll have to go the long way around to make that one happen, and ultimately cannot find what's needed. Tries to set up a knit one, a pearl one, an up and an under, but again looking for the inside. It's covered once more by Dennis Jordan, and again this is the frustration starting to kick in a few of these battles.
Of course, your tires are also going to be worn a little bit more when you're constantly following someone, because you have to lean a bit more on the tires if you don't have as much downforce. As you see a little bit of smoke puff up there, but they're so close together. None of them are making a mistake of like locking up. They are, you know, really throwing it into the first corner, but still, with, you know, such close racing. Now a bigger lockup there from Briliac. He's really starting to get a little bit impatient, I think, trying to carry most of the momentum through, and I think now coming up the hill, just keeping it perfectly behind Jordan. trying to take a bit wider line, but he sees that Jordan takes it more inside, wants more slipstream right on his tail, and if he keeps it going through the Bilstein curve like this, he will have a quite good run, but it's a bit wide again. Hits the curb a bit harder and hits the gravel a little bit, so that will take away a bit of momentum, so now not again in attack range.
Again, it is struggle central for Petr Briliak, who is right there at the best point possible, but it was the legendary Murray Walker who said that catching was one thing, passing was another. Another look into the Hyundai N-curve, but again, can't quite pick it up, can't quite place it, but Dennis Jordan knows that he was in trouble. Immediately hard to the pit wall, must cover my inside. That's the one place I cannot allow Petr Briliak a way through. Again, closing up in the draft. Big differentiation in speed and trying to get the runner slide, though, costs just enough to go through. Tom Beckhauser out of fuel, out of the race then. He was down at the back of the field in 16th place. He's now out of the event. We've still got that scrap though, 9th, 10th, 11th as well. Just to keep in mind in the final 4 minutes of this race as well for this one, as Briliak still trying to get close to Dennis Jordan, because you've still got Papi, Muscat and Ottaviani within a couple of tenths of a second of each other.
And from the current position of Erhan Yayovsky, I think it's going to be, with this one counted, only 3 more laps to go. So it's really getting heated there all throughout the field, not just for Briliak, but also for Alessandro Ottaviani, who's now being caught by not 1 but 2 people. Muscat is still sticking right to his gearbox, and Cosmo Papi really wants to undo his mistake from early on in the race. He's really looking racy in the back there. So it's really just anyone's guess, just as Ottaviani kind of over pushes the tires a little bit. A lot of smoke coming through there. And the tires, of course, heating up quite a lot. So it's going to be very interesting to see now if Jason Muscat can get that bit of performance out of his car, out of his 1-liter Aprilia RSV4 engine. If he can make the pass now.
It's going to be mighty close. This may just be the final lap here for Erhan Yayovsky. This is going to be right down to the wire in terms of time. If you can get one more out of this one. Dennis Jordan again under pressure from Petr Briliak in 4th and 5th. This could be the chance that Briliak's been waiting for. Tucked up underneath again. It's almost a carbon copy of a lap ago. Thinks for the inside again. Feigns it to the outside. Trying to get this up and under. Has he got it nice and neat? Yes, he does. But again, around the outside, we'll try the look from Petr Briliak. I don't think he's got that one in the locker, because again, it's defending. Again, he'll have to try around the outside. If he can hang it here, he's got the inside for the next corner. And Briliak does. This is sensational. But again, side by side, the traction off the exit, the drive was there for Dennis Jordan. Briliak again couldn't quite find the one magical move that could get that one position done. To Ottaviani and Muscat though, that's close, but again, Jason Muscat not quite in a position to get this one going as Paul August Lana pits, having been just out of fuel at the final stages of this race. He couldn't quite get it over the line. So off there goes Cacamagno, the lap draft between Briliak and Jordan, but Jordan still holding that margin just enough. But this is the one opportunity that's needed to get close, and this could be the run, looking to the outside to get this one done. Around the outside looking, but again, not there. We'll look at the battle in a little bit, because here comes Erhan Yayovsky through the final couple of corners. We expect this one to end right now on this lap. He's already having a celebration at this point. The timer expires. It was perfect, this race. Erhan Yayovsky is your Griiip G1 Virtual Series 2020 champion with a dominant display. Simončić had nothing. Capit had nothing either as they finished 2nd and 3rd. Dennis Jordan will hold off Petr Briliak in 4th and in 5th positions overall. Michi Hoyer, who's not here today, will take the final 7th place with Jordan's 4th place finish. That's guaranteed. But now to 9th and 10th. One of the last battles out on track that we're keeping an eye out on right now, because you've got Ottaviani and Muscat's going to need to find something from a mile back, and at this point he is not quite close enough through the chicane, and the final corner will come up in the offing as well, and ultimately will not find the overtake that is necessary heading over the line. A brilliant, brilliant result from Erhan Yayovsky. He is your champion of 2020, and he did so through some brilliant qualifying and race results here, Nicholas. You can see the smile.
Yeah, and the rightful smile it is. And once again, a big sip there, staying hydrated after a very exhausting race, I'm sure. He does look quite hot there in his seat. But yeah, besides Erhan, now, very well driven and rightfully winning the championship, Erhan Jajowski, out of the picture, but second place, I think, with this goes to Jane Simoncic. So Risto just not being able to hold that maybe, but why don't we just ask them all themselves here about this race?
Yes.
As they're one by one all joining in this channel.
Absolutely they are. Erhan Jajowski stood by with me right now. Erhan, you have to be so excited after that race victory. You had a fantastic qualifying to finish this one off as you picked up the win. But what was so very, very vital about that race as you picked it up by 6.7 seconds come the end was the fact that all you needed to do was finish first or second. You got the job done in first. You didn't look back. And it seemed like 10th on 10th, lap on lap, nobody had a match for you.
Yeah, like a huge weight lifted out of my chest after I crossed the finish line. I was expecting a bit more pressure from Jerne, to be honest, but yeah, he dropped quite early.
Well, it was a drop a little bit early from him in terms of pace, but that won't be too much of a cause of concern. A win is a win is a win. And in terms of your pace, you have been consistently the one most at the front of the field. You've failed, or you've only had 3 results in this series. You've had first, you've had second, and you've had a non-finish overall as far as the results show. So an insane amount of pace has been a big help to that. But now you start looking at how this result helps this Roman Grosjean team, new into the sim racing world this year, really looking to make statement to the tune of €2,500. You must be incredibly proud for the work that you've done as well as the team.
And maybe the name is quite new to the sim racing world, but behind the scene all the people have worked like a lot in this world, so yeah. We are pushing hard.
Well, you certainly are pushing hard at the moment, but in terms of you get yourself the big victory, it was a race to certainly remember for you, a drive away from the rest of the drivers. It couldn't have been more fairy tale in terms of the way that you were running this event. So in terms of looking towards the second half of 2020 now, what's your expectations in terms of looking at what sort of series you're wanting to run, what sort of results you're hoping to get? What's next in the offing for you?
Yeah, after this one, there is like a month of break, and then the race room season starts in beginning of August. So we are gonna be quite busy in the second half of the year, for sure.
Well, it's going to be a whole heap of things coming up in the books, and hopefully it's going to be one where you find yourself with more storied success. But before we let you go here, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank for your championship and your race victory here in the Rhineland.
I would like to thank I would like to thank my team firstly, my teammate Risto for being a great sportsmanship, and you guys for hosting this championship and all the sponsors involved.
Well, that's not a worry at all. It's a victory and a championship then for Erhan Jajowski. Second place would go to Jerne Simoncic. He stood by with Nicholas Hillebrand.
Jerne, a very strong performance, staying in second, but not quite the pace maybe you were hoping for. Still, this championship from third place up to second place in the final standings, as it seems. How are you liking your final result?
I'm happy. I knew that deep in my heart that P1 is impossible. Even the chance to get P1 in the standings was gifted by Erhan in Zandvoort when he retired. But yeah, I knew what I was making when I decided to skip race. I had to skip one race because of bachelor's party of a friend. So yeah, that was the moment when I said, okay, that thing is more important than the championship because it was a good friend. And yeah, then I defended second place, and I didn't really expect to be even able to go for second, but in the end, I believe I'm just tied on points with Risto, but I have one more victory, so if that's correct, yeah, second place in the standings, and yeah, good pace today, but yeah, when I grow up, I want to be like Erhan and Risto, full-time sim racer, but currently with full-time job and with like race yesterday and race tomorrow and race on Sunday and race today, and yeah, it's just impossible to prepare for everything. So yeah, I'm happy about the second place, and yeah, congrats to Erhan.
Definitely a position to be happy about, because still a fantastic performance that you put up, some great pace, and also, of course, the qualifying that had us all on our toes. And now I'm gonna give it back to Jake to finish the interviews here.
Yes, we've got Risto Capit here alongside third place finish. Risto, it seemed to be a case throughout the course of the season that you had the consistency value to be up in the championship fight, but ultimately just didn't have that extra gear to get it over the line with victories. So in terms of getting third place here today, was it another case of those two drivers in front of you just had that little bit more in the tank?
Yes, especially Erhan, for sure. I mean, before the race, I was telling myself already that third place is what I deserve anyway. Both Erhan and Jerne had skipped around, so in that sense I was spoiled to be in this situation. But then again, seeing this, how small the gap was to Jerne in the end, and some of the other smaller mistakes I did during the season, then I could have done just a little bit better, even with the pace I had, and I could have still taken the championship. So my consistency was not ideal still. So yeah, could have done better. Of course, Erhan's pace was untouchable with this car, except for the first round, but otherwise it was. So yeah, I'm satisfied still. It's a nice prize for third place. It was a very exciting, quick championship. So still, overall, it's positive. The guys we beat, who are not on this podium, there's lots of good guys. So yeah, I'm happy to be up here with the two fastest guys in the refactor.
Well, it's certainly a very storied podium here in terms of not only the race, but the championship as well. Let's just look back, though, at qualifying and into the race. You knew you had to make positions early, you had to make positions quick, but really that start in towards turn number one, everybody single file into a line from the front two rows. Was it just a case of, you know, nobody could really get a run on everybody else, especially with the slightly quicker formation lap that was there?
Yeah, maybe. Well, I was hoping for it to be like Monaco when Jerne gave Erhan proper pressure. That was what I was expecting. But yeah, Erhan got a good start, and there was not too much dirty air, I think, with this car, and a pretty strong draft. So there was all the chances for both me and Jerne to keep up in the draft. But yeah, eventually our pace difference was just enough that we all went our separate ways, and that was that. So simply, yeah, unlike previous rounds, that was simply the case that the pace was so different that nothing we could do. We were all in a very high level, so we didn't make any big mistakes. So yeah, that's that.
Well, before we let you go, Risto, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank.
Yeah, still Roman Grosjean for this team, for this opportunity. Like Jerne said, it's a big thing. Of course, we are not living rich doing this thing, but we can manage it just enough that yeah, we can focus most of our time on sim racing, and that is a benefit to always be prepared. And even in this period, like Jerne said, we have races almost every day. It's tricky. Even if you have 24 hours a day for sim racing, it's not humanly possible to always be practicing. So still, we like to have breaks. But yeah, thanks to being in a professional team like Roman Grosjean Esports, we have the sponsors to back up with the hardware, so we don't have to spend our money. And yeah, we're able to focus on the championships, to do esports, to do it all professionally. And yeah, that's the dream.
Risto Capit there, coming home with third position, not only in the race, but in the championship as well. Joining me right now is Tamir Plachinsky, who is the CEO of Griiip right now. And Tamir, you know, you look over the course of a 6-week season, and I a collection of races like this where we've had so much amazing close quarters combat and two very different stories through both events, which created some brilliant racing, brilliant sim racing. We all know it's been a difficult challenge here in 2020 with all of the issues going on with the pandemic, but in terms of the expectations and the reality that has come out of this Virtual Series 2020, surely this has to come off as a roaring success. Well, we'd like to hope that we get Tamir Placzynski here, but ultimately the microphone at the moment is muted at this point in time. So we hopefully we get Tamir Placzynski in a moment. So hopefully we have that one available for you in just a moment's time. But Nicholas, you really have to say that this event really went off without a hit, with too many hitches. Even when, you know, things did go wrong, there was a lot that went on behind the scenes to make sure that everything still worked all cleanly, all effectively. But really, in terms of a season, you know, two very worthy champions and some very fantastic battling.
It was most definitely, from start to end of the race, it was very, very exciting to watch. We had battles all over the field. We didn't know where to watch, to be honest, because, you know, you just focus on one battle for maybe a lap or 1.5, and meanwhile you're ignoring 5 other battles that are going on. So it was really just incredibly exciting to watch. These cars made up for fantastic racing, and yeah, it's just really quite fantastic with such a high profile grid of the combination, of course, between real drivers and sim races as well. And yeah, just all I can say is wow, it was a race befitting to end the championship on.
Hello?
And we have Tommy here now.
Hi. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm still learning this Discord operating system. So sorry for that.
Well, we're all new once, so it's absolutely fine, Tamir. But in terms of this championship, this season, we all know that it was very different in terms of what Griiip would normally do with a season like this, owing to the pandemic that has been going on and has completely changed the way that we view the world. But now looking at how this season's gone over 6 weeks, you have to think about this as a roaring success.
Yeah, for sure. I just we have a big belief and also passion for esports, not only for real racing, and we are the first series to really integrate virtual races in a real series, which was what happened in last year. This year we plan to do even a bigger step and more things related to esport integrated in the real series, which unfortunately didn't happen. So for that, you're completely right. We see this 6 weekend events so intense, week after week, with close races, as a very, very good way to keep the adrenaline high, you know, and keep the activity going even in this time of waiting for racing to return.
You have two very capable champions in both the amateur and the pro divisions, in Erhan Yoyoski for the pro and Philip Kraus for the amateur. Two drivers who had two very different step ladders to get to exactly where they needed to be. But in terms of having two very worthy champions, also two very different ways to secure their championships as well. You must have a lot of pride seeing those two drivers getting themselves up to the top and picking up their victories.
Absolutely, they are both master of their work, and it showed. Of course, the difference between winning every race to taking the championship in the last event is big, but it was both very exciting to see, and we are honored to have them racing in the Griiip G1 Virtual.
And now moving over towards the likes of the back end of 2020, 2021, there's a huge focus. There's a massive rise at the moment in terms of esports, even from the 5 years that I've been a part of the scene, entering my 6th. But you're now starting to see more and more events are getting massive viewership. I mean, the virtual Le Mans race had 14 million views across 57 countries. Are we now starting to see this level here when it comes to sim racing, that it's finally starting to get the recognition as being somewhere close to, if not on par with actual racing?
I think, yeah, I think absolutely, and that's the. We had just mentioning Enzo Bonito, which we all know, that raced in the G1 series last year and get some amazing performance, even if it was his first time in a real racing car. So the path from virtual to real is already proven, and now it will only grow. And I can also share with you that, not to share, but to say that you can expect more things from Griiip relating to esports in the near future. Not only the real cars, but more things.
Well, that sounds really good. We have just jumped over time ever so slightly, but so before we let you go, Tamir, just your final thoughts closing off the season. Anyone you'd like to thank?
I like to thank first. It was an amazing 6 race championship, so I like to thank first the guys from WPR, World Pro Racing, Justin and Adrian for doing work. It's a pleasure working with them. It's not the first time, and it's always a great pleasure. Thanks for Fiverr, our main sponsor, which should have sponsored the real series, but agreed to continue working.
Absolutely fantastic there. As we hear from Tamir Plachinsky there, as we just get a little bit of latency coming through at the end, but Tamir Plachinsky there, CEO of Griiip. But that brings a close to proceedings here today. A massive thanks to everyone who's got it done, from Fiverr to the likes, of course, of GT Omega and Thrustmaster as well, who have been fantastic when it's come to the sponsorship, as well as all the channels that you have seen, and subscribe to them if you haven't already, to World Pro Racing on YouTube, on Facebook Live, on Twitch, to, of course, the likes of the ESR 24/7 Esports Network, to TVM Sport, to motorsport.tv, and to ESPN as well. From Nicholas Hillebrand, from Justin Mifsud, to Adrian Fagayo, George Muscat, Nathan Mifsud, and of course myself, Jake Sperry. It's been a fantastic season's worth of racing. Kraus with dominance, with perfection, with 6 from 6. Yayovsky had to really grind into the paint and finally got what he wanted after a hard-fought 30 minutes. It's been a truly wonderful season, and there's so much more to come. Stay tuned with World Pro Racing. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Want to quit your day job? Become a pro streamer. Want to become a pro streamer? Get your panels, overlays, banners, emotes, and more at the Fiverr Twitch store.
This is bad. Wait, let's just do it ourselves.
It is not fear that grips him, only restlessness, a heightened sense of things. The smell of engine and sweat, the engine rattling his blood, the crowd roaring. The race is about to start. He breathes deeply to focus. In this league, he finally found what he was looking for. A true passion.
Sono Massimo Paganini e per anni ho cercato una macchina che mi desse gioia, adrenalina nella guida e finalmente l'ho trovata nella G1 Series. Se anche tu vuoi provare una macchina che ti dia gioia e adrenalina, G1 Series 2020.
So, you think you got what it takes to race in the G1 Series? Can you keep your concentration? Even in the most stressed situations, can you keep pushing even when things go wrong? Can you master different environments? Can you adapt immediately to different conditions? Can you keep learning? Learning from your opponents, learning from your mistakes, learning from everyone, anytime, anywhere, until you reach your goal and become the best you can. Think you got what it takes to race in the 2020 G1 Series? Then fill in the form now.
Want real followers? Become a pro streamer. Want to become a pro streamer? Get your panels, overlays, banners, emotes, and more at the Fiverr Twitch store.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.